The guy asks in surprise if Tatiana Lorraine from Vikings Cartier has arrived. The butler explains that he informed her that the gentleman was absent, but she said that she would wait for him. Hearing this, the young gentleman quickly ran to the room where the girl was waiting for him. He asks in surprise how she came to this place, because he knows that she should not come to such a place. The guy is interested in the reason why such a beautiful aristocratic lady came to meet such a commoner like him, and even asks to drink alcohol with her. The young gentleman does not understand what this could mean, and drinks wine. The girl was silent for a while, and then asked him to marry her. He asked in surprise what she was talking about. Tatiana asks him to marry her because she was waiting for him to tell her all this. The guy smiled, and then asked if she was laughing at him. And then he said that it was true that he was once interested in her. He screamed and explained that she was mistaken because he did not desire her at all, but only her body. The main character says that it's great because she has what he wants. Kanel asks if she understands what she's talking about because at least he thought she was reasonable. The young lady explains that this is why she came to him, and then asks her to listen because she gave up that mouth. Hearing this, the guy thought that she was either expelled or abandoned, and then looked at her in surprise. Tatiana asks if she should tell him everything in more detail. In the Duchy of Atlas, a woman says in surprise that the rumors were true, and that today the Duke will actually propose, as she understands that the negotiations between the Empress and the Viscountess have finally ended. The lady offers to watch a banquet arranged in the Duke's house for the lady's 21st birthday, because she believes that they are both not the kind of people who will back down. The lady says that she understands how much effort the Viscountess has put into the duchy and asks if she can leave empty-handed. The other woman tells her that this is not the first time, but the fifth. The ladies saw Tatiana, and they understand that it was really worth it to invest so much money in the Duchy of Atlas. After all, it is not for nothing that they call her a living doll. The lady tells her to be quieter because this girl will soon become a duchess, and thinks that they need to be more careful. At this time, the main character thought that they really believed that nothing could be heard about what they were saying. The lady approaches the girl and says that she wanted to look at her sweet face because their late father would have been glad to see it. Anesia Auberdine de Cartier, the Viscount's first daughter, reports that her son-in-law has prepared a gift for her, a sapphire, and then asks where he is, since even the Duke of Atlas is nowhere to be seen. Larissa Lauren says that it is obvious because if men have a convenient opportunity, they only look for an excuse to smoke and discuss business and politics, and then asks how much time she devoted to the banquet. Anicia says that this is true because the Duke of Atlas's banquet hall was planned from start to finish by their mother. Mom asks what day it is for Regina, since she won't come, and she kept spreading news about the banquet, but still didn't come. The lady turns to her daughter and tells her that under no circumstances should she become like her second sister. Mom claims that Tatiana is her last hope and the greatest treasure in her life, and then hugs the girl and strokes her face. Larissa says that she is looking forward to it because the Empress sent her an engagement ring, a diamond weighing just over 100 carats. And then she explains that since the former Duchess is no longer there, the Empress personally takes care of her family. Mom asks her daughter if she understands. The girl suggests that she not worry because she will pretend to be surprised as much as possible, as if she did not expect it, touchingly and sincerely with tears in her eyes. Mom says that she doesn't know if there will be people who will be deceived by this, but this is the rule of Soviet society. Even knowing everything, one can be deceived. Tatiana tells her mother that she is a little tired and will go to the second floor to rest there. The main character saw Camilla and thought about how she was a commoner, and she wondered how she dared to even think of coming to this place without being an aristocrat. The girl does not understand how Count Tereggi could take such a girl under his protection. He calls her a designer, and there is no place where he would not take her with him. And the girl also cleans very frivolously. Tatiana believes that there is a wall that cannot be overcome, and it is a sin not to be an aristocrat. However, she understands that Camilla is trying with all her might to jump over this wall. The young lady thought that there was a man who could not overcome this wall and was trampled, and he was the red-eyed reaper Canel. The main character remembers that there was such a person, but she understands that she should not think about such a person because she knows nothing about this person, and therefore she should think only about the engagement and the 100-fold diamond. The young lady wondered if all the other brides had similar feelings. When Tatiana approached the door, she heard a girl smiling and addressing Duke Atlas. She told him to be quieter because his beautiful bride could hear it after all. It's not for nothing that they call her a doll. The gentleman asks her if she thinks this doll will be able to think correctly, and then he hugs her. He says that the day will pass unnoticed if he puts his mother's jewelry on her one by one. Hearing this, the lady asks the Duke in surprise what he is saying, and then suggests that he concentrate. Atlas says that he understood everything and suggests that she stop being capricious. At this time, the main character enters the room. When the loving couple saw her, they were very surprised. The main character remembers that many years ago, when her second son-in-law cheated on her, her mother said that a man can have an affair on the side, and of course a woman can too. If a man does, then a woman does too. And so in reality it is not an open way of thinking, but simply means that one must act with the calculation of who will get more and for which side it is beneficial. Atlas asks Tiara in surprise why she is there. The girl understands that she, as her mother's daughter, can do nothing about it. He says that it is simple and then falls silent because he does not know what to say next. The main character says that if they are not going to brag about it to people, then let them speak more quietly. The gentleman heard this and called her name Tiara, and at that time she thought about what Tatiana was, and she wondered what she should do, because she wanted to bring these two out right now and disgrace them. But it was not beneficial to her. The young lady understands that the rumors will be dramatized to suit their taste and color, and therefore she will not be spared a scandal either, since she understands that this is the worst birthday. The girl knows that he is one of those men who could do something like this at any time, but she did not think that she would be like this on the day when he was going to propose. Atlas invites Tiara to listen to him, and then explains that this is a misunderstanding, and first suggests that she dye her ardor. The girl turns to His Excellency and claims that he has never seen her angry, and then she says that she will leave now, and they will successfully finish what they started. Tatiana says that if he has an urgent matter in the imperial palace, or if he falls down the stairs and breaks something no matter what it is, she will be grateful if he makes sure that her name does not come up anywhere. The young gentleman screams and asks what she is saying, and also wonders about their engagement. She asks in surprise if he knew that an engagement was planned. Hearing this, Atlas did not know what to say in response, and the main character suggests finishing what they were doing. As Tatiana leaves, she says that she hasn't received the ring yet, and therefore it's convenient that there's nothing to calculate separately. Hearing this, Atlas screams in surprise and calls her Tiara, and the lady turns to him and says that he should stop calling her by this nickname. Katrina, the third daughter of the Viscount, asks Tiara in surprise why she went out. She asks her sisters if everything is over already. Viviane wonders how it could have ended if she doesn't have a ring on her hand. Yet Tatiana explains that nothing has begun, and therefore there is nothing to end. They ask in surprise what that means. The main character gets into the carriage and tells the sisters to tell their mother to go to the office on the second floor. She also says that girls might also be curious about how animals mate. When the mistress returned, the maid asked in surprise whether she should prepare dinner right now or start with bathing. Tatiana asks N if she knows what day it is. She replies that of course she knows what day it is, and then says that it is the lady's birthday and the day she received the proposal from the Duke of Atlas. Hearing this, the main character thought that the rumors had gone too far, but she believed that these rumors would never come true. The girl sitting on the bed remembered her mother's words about how she was thinking about Duke Atlas sitting next to her at the weekend charity event because she thought it would be nice. The young lady understands that it is finally her turn since Sister Viviana got married 4 years ago, but she thinks that it would be nice if a lonely viscountess dared to become the head of the duchy. Larissa Laurent de Cartier was an unhappy widow with no money and 5 daughters. The beautiful daughters who resembled their mother became a great asset. 17 years ago, starting with the wedding of her eldest daughter, Annecy, with Count Oberdine, who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, she took the place of the second wife. The second daughter, Regina, married a wealthy man. After raising her position through the marriage of her 2 daughters, she continued to use the marriage strategy so that her third daughter, Katrina, won the heart of the Marquise Ante, who was the Minister of Justice. The main character understands that these were fairy tales of the secular world when 2 people accidentally met in the opera house. Viviane was Katerina's twin and had a choice of marriage proposals. Viscountess Cartier had become the ruler of social circles in 20 years, and all that was left for her to do was to raise Tatiana, the middle daughter of 5, over whom she had worked so hard to the top. The daughters turn to their mother and say that they will also help because they understand that money is power. Family is the most important thing. Mom says that this is Tiara, and naturally it needs everything. The main character believes that the one who could barely satisfy her complacency was the Duke of the Atlas family, Alexei. The Duchy of Atlas, among the 3 duchies of the Freya Empire, being from the most powerful family, Empress Charlize actually ruled the imperial palace, where there was no empress. Alexei, the empress's nephew, and the young head of the duchy, was the best groom, young, handsome, and ambitious. At first, the sisters who claimed that this was impossible happily invested their husbands' financial resources and personal connections for the sake of their beloved younger sister. The Viscountess completed negotiations with the empress in just 2 months, and Tatiana was promised a 100-carat diamond ring as a gift for her 20th birthday. The main character looked at her hand and thought that she didn't feel sorry about the ring at all, but she understood that people would still be hanging around about it, and it wouldn't end in a regular scandal. Suddenly, the girl's mother and sisters enter the room. She asks her daughter if she is okay. Tatiana says that probably mother had already heard everything from the sisters, and she had no reason to stay there any longer. The Viscountess calls her daughter her treasure and says that she was probably shocked. At this time, Tatiana realized that her mother was not angry because she had invested a lot of money and effort into this wedding. However, the main character realizes that the price may have been equal to the cost of 3 or 4 mansions on the main street. Mom asks if she knows how worried she was. The daughter apologizes and says that it just happened that way. The Viscountess offers to tell in more detail what happened in the end. The girl explains that she came across it while passing by the office on the 2nd floor, and these 2 were doing the same thing. Larissa, hearing this, smiled and said that now she understood what was going on. Tatiana said that the Duke should be grateful that she did not reveal him on the spot. The main character asks how he dared to aggressively court a girl for 2 months and plan to propose and then not be able to resist and seduce another. Mom says she understands that she was very shocked by this, but she is also in shock no less than her. The girl apologizes and then says that she does not know how all this will work out. The Viscountess tells her daughter not to pay attention because she has a mother and first suggests that she rest a little. Regina tells her mother that she did the right thing because on a day like today, it is better to go to bed early. Mother agrees with her and says that it will harm the skin and then asks who would like that. The daughter tells her mother that his sexual desire has gone too far and thinks that he could do it somewhere else and not in the office. The Viscountess asks in surprise what she is saying. Regina asks if she hasn't just seen Tiara's face. Then she claims that this is the first time this has happened to her. She asks how her pride can bear such an insult. Mother says that she raised Tiara to be too soft And then she says that in such a situation, she should have just reacted coldly, as if nothing had happened. The main character asks what happened after she left. The sister explains that mother personally went and sorted things out on the second floor, but nothing good would come of attracting attention. And so she suggests that everything ended without anything special. Vivi says that the Duke ran away, saying that he urgently needed to go to the palace. And at that time the main character remembered the words that she told him, and thought that he was so stupid that he did not come up with anything himself and just used her words as a plan. Tatiana thought that she would throw up now as she looks like this in his eyes. However, she thinks that in her opinion, the Duke is not an ideal husband. The main character understands that no matter how hard her mother tried to push her, if she herself did not want it, they would not have gone so far, and in any case, they are all the same. And if among them there is the best, then the Duke is most suitable for the role of husband. The young lady believes that although he himself is not perfect, he is in an ideal position, and everything else is just mutual efforts and respect. And even if it is not such a great love as in fairy tales, the girl thought that they could get along as husband and wife without any difficulties, and wondered if she really wanted that much. Sister tells Tiara not to worry so much, because mother will meet with the empress and take care of this matter. The main character thought that she could only trust her family. Winter Empire, Freya capital, was Lebron, where there were white nights because the sun does not set for half a year, and it was a place where you can enjoy the magnificent culture of the empire. In the depths of the magnificent imperial palace lies the residence of the empress, the Ploina Palace. The empress says that every time the viscountess comes, this place becomes warmer. Larissa says that her eldest son-in-law, Count Oberdien, took this greenhouse completely from the Carmenian royal family. And then she says that the king of Carmenia begged her to leave at least this. But what could she do because the young prince, weakened by the cold, needed it? The empress suggests that she get down to business, and at that moment, the viscountess thought that if her son is valuable, then her daughter is too. Her Majesty says that she heard from Alexei that a scandalous incident had occurred. The viscountess says that it seems that she is not properly informed about it. After all, the Duke is no slouch either, and asks whether it was necessary to arrange something like that on Tatiana's birthday. The empress says she thought the lady was perceptive enough, but now feels it is an insult to his satin duke. Larissa objects and says that she is not insulting, and then asks if she can allow herself to insult the duke. The empress says that in any case she regrets it. The viscountess says that she regrets it too, because she thought that she would become related to the empress, but unfortunately nothing can be done. Her Majesty asks if she is going to break off the marriage. At this, she thinks how dare this old forest, since she thinks that she has been polite to her so far. The empress says that it is unexpected that the lady is so frivolous about the arrangement of the families, and then says that the Duchy of Atlas will become the emperor's family on the maternal side. Larissa says that it was the Duke who was the first to take this agreement lightly, and then she says that she needs to go with this, and she thanks Her Majesty for giving her her precious time. At this time, the Empress does not understand whether she will leave just like that, and she does not know how this woman can be like this. Larissa explains that she must look after her Tatiana because the poor thing has suffered such a shock, and therefore she needs to take care of her. The Empress says that she then wishes her a speedy recovery, and then she thinks that she is self-confident and therefore has no reason to hold them back because she believes that her son will become the emperor in the future. Larissa, leaving, says that she almost forgot, and then asks if the lady heard that His Highness the Crown Prince will return to Lebanon in 2 days with that famous red-eyed wolf. The woman asks in surprise what she is talking about. The Viscountess asks if she is aware of it. Larissa explains that she heard this from her 4th son, Marquis Laboni, and since he is involved in all internal and external affairs, he is the first to know about all the news. The Viscountess informs him that she has taken up her precious time for too long, and therefore takes her leave. Her Majesty, screaming, asks how her daughter Tatiana is frightened by this. Larissa thought about how it would be right away, and then answers that how to say she, as her mother sees that her daughter is so upset about what happened. The girl says that they haven't been shopping with Tiara for a long time, and then says that she doesn't have to buy anything because the gifts from her older sisters and ideas have piled up like a mountain. Tatiana asks if they only go shopping if they need to buy something specific, and explains that it's to change their mood and suggests continuing shopping. The main character thought that nothing attracts the eye and all the dresses are the same. The lady says that LeBron is very sad, and it seems to her that the South is significantly different, and they pay even with a neckline to the chest. Another girl says it's indecent. The lady says they say LeBron also has dresses like that, and they say their designer is Camilla. The lady with green hair says that this girl is the mistress of Count Teredji, and therefore she thinks that this vulgar outfit is just for immoral women. Rebecca tells Eileen that maybe she would be better off this way because she thinks it's cheaper since it requires less fabric and isn't as cumbersome. The main character reports that Countess Teredji died a long time ago and therefore believes that they are not just having an affair. Hearing this, Rebecca screams and asks Tiara what she is saying. She replies that she does not think it is necessary to talk about people she hates so much every time. Tatiana turns to Eileen and says that the source of news from the South is her brother who went to the battlefield, and asks if this is true. She replies that he returned yesterday, and soon a banquet will be held in the Imperial Palace to celebrate the victory. The girl wonders if all the knights returned then, since they were gone for 3 years. Eileen says that Freya's flag has been raised all the way to the southern border, so there won't be a war for a while, and believes that it's all thanks to the Crown Prince. Rebecca claims that he is not the Crown Prince, but a black wolf, and then asks who does not know that in recent years half of Freya's territory has been expanded, and says that recently he has been called the Red-Eyed Reaper. The girl says that he is very tall, and she also heard that his head is bigger than most knights, and according to her brother, even when approaching him, the whole body freezes and is cold to the point of turning blue. The lady with green hair asks why they should discuss it among themselves if they can ask Tatiana, because she thinks that she knows better about the man who looks like a devil, because she is the only one among them who has seen him up close. Hearing this, the main character understood what they were hinting at. After all, she understood that she should have become the queen of the social circles of the Cariana Brand estate, since everyone praised her and considered her the future queen. Tatiana boasted that her older sisters married rich people. Rebecca asks what happened then, whether she was asked to dance or to marry, since this was his last wish before going to the battlefield. And after he sent her only one letter, he was subjected to all sorts of humiliation. Rebecca says that, however, seeing as he refused the title given to him by the Crown Prince, at least he knew his place. At this time, the main character thought that she should also know her place. Rebecca says that she understands why the Viscountess was so furious. After all, they say that he has a blood relationship with the Marquise of Targa, but it is unclear whether this is true or not. The girl says that her mother put a lot of effort into this wedding, and she thinks that, of course, she was confused, that if she had tied her fate to some commoner. And then she asks Tatiana how he is to her because she thinks that he has red pupils. Tatiana answers, "Who knows?" Rebecca says not to be like that because it's between them friends. She remembers that there was a lot of noise then and asks if she's pretending to forget. The main character asks if they think she only received letters from this person, and then says that there are too many to remember everything. The surprised girl says that it cannot be that she who will soon become a duchess does not remember the letter from this devil. Hearing this, the young lady thought about what she had said in the end, and then she said that it was about her birthday, and rumors that she would receive an engagement ring were widely spread. The girl says that she must have been so worried when the Duke suddenly left everyone saying that he had urgent business in the palace, and at that time the main character thought that something must have gone wrong, and she thinks that she can deceive others, but not her. Rebecca tells Tatiana that everyone knows that her mother came to the Atlas estate and acted like a mistress, and therefore believes that it cannot be that she could not get into the Duke's family, and asks if this is true. The main character asks if that's all she wanted to say, and then says that she herself knows very well what her mother does to the family of those she doesn't like. Hearing this, the girl got scared and explains that she is just. Tatiana interrupts her and suggests not to worry, because no matter how heartless and cruel her mother is, she usually only acts like that with those who cause harm. The maid asks if everything will be all right with Mistress Rebecca, and also wonders if she will suddenly harbor a grudge for today and start spreading strange rumors. The lady assures that everything will be fine because she believes that she is as calculating as she is envious. She also thinks that such rumors will soon die down. Tatiana says that she thinks that if Sister Regina gets divorced again, then let the maid send the yellow box to Baron Hamilton, and then says that this is what Eileen liked. The maid asks what if Mistress Eileen takes this as sympathy, since she understands that it is an expensive hat. The main character claims that everything is fine because she bought it for others too. The maid smiled and said that their mistress is calculating. Suddenly, Tatiana saw two men, and she wondered who they were. She thought they were mercenaries because they had black hair, and she didn't understand why she had a feeling of déjà vu. Alexei says that it is not likely because she was not seen for several days, and in the end, she is in this place. At this time, the main character remembered those people, and she became interested in whether the Duke had seen them. The gentleman with black hair says that they are returning. Hearing this, the boy turns to the leader and states that he must make a decision today, and then asks if this is not an order from His Majesty the Crown Prince. The lieutenant asks what order he is talking about, and then offers to sort it out himself. He says in surprise that he cannot decide the question of where he will live. The guy thought that the gentleman was not at all interested in the affairs of this world because he was a war hero and even saved the life of the Crown Prince, and he was a man whom the knights in the vanguard greeted with enthusiastic cries. The man says that Lebrun is very big and offers to say which place he prefers. He says that His Majesty the Crown Prince said that it would be better to settle down near the imperial palace. And also you can even go to the residence of the high-ranking nobility Trimagnol. The gentleman replies that as far as possible, and this should be the farthest place from here. At this time the Duke asks Tiara why she is silent. She reminds him that she asked him not to call her that, and at this time he thought that she was tired because of this. Rumors would spread even faster. The gentleman asks how long she plans to act like a child, and then states that they need to talk. The lady replies that if possible she would like their conversation to be as short as possible. Alexei smiled and said that this matter required a thorough conversation, and then asked if she felt better because she left the estate in a huff on that important day. Hearing this, the girl says that she thinks the Duke misunderstands. He claims that he thinks she misunderstands, and then asks if she thinks marriage is a joke. He says that no matter how well she knows this world, she still acts frivolously. Alexei screams and asks if she knows how much trouble she caused that day. Tatiana asks in surprise if she should know that, and then says that in any case their story ended that day. The main character says that she doesn't know why he came all the way here, and doesn't intend to have any more contact with him, the Duke. The gentleman screaming says that it is because someone kicked Natalia out. Hearing this, the lady asks in surprise who Natalia is, and then she smiled and said that she understands that the girl's name is Natalia. Alexei suggests that she not pretend that she doesn't know, and he tells her that Natalia came to him in tears, and then asks what a girl who was kicked out of a hotel in such weather should have done. Tatiana asks in surprise if it is she. The young gentleman wonders who in Lebrun is capable of such a thing. At this point, the main character realized that the sisters had done all this The Duke asks if she is pretending to remember, and then says that if she continues to feign indifference, he is ready to tell everything in more detail. She claims that there is no need for this. The young lady asks if the Duke is really so angry because of the broken engagement or because of the unhappy mistress. Tatiana thought about what she knew and then said that if it was because of the engagement, then everything was over. But if it was because of his mistress, then she asked if it seemed to him that he had turned to the wrong person. The Duke asks if she can accept it, and then he says that he never even intended to marry that girl. He says that Tatiana could have had everything, but instead, she can't stand such a minor incident. Alexei explains that she was not only kicked out, but is no longer accepted into any of the hotels in the central part of the city. The main character asks why she shouldn't be settled in his house. Hearing this, the gentleman was surprised, and the girl says that the one who can't even settle one of his mistresses dares to blame all the blame on her sisters. The young lady asks who owns all the hotels and who is the owner of their house. He turns to the lady and calls her a tiara, and she screams and reminds him that she asked him not to call her that. Alexei says that in any case, it's good that it wasn't her doing, and then says that he knew that she wasn't that crazy and therefore would hold her sisters accountable for what they did. The main character asks what other responsibility he says, and then claims that if he were sensible, he would be grateful that everything ended this way, because it was as if it were her second sister Regina. That poor girl had already been found in the Sarthe River. The girl asks if he knows what is best, and then says that she never loved him. Otherwise, he would have sailed along the Sarthe River with that girl. Tatiana says that she hopes she will never see him again, and then says that if her mother had known that the Duke was looking for her for such a reason, everything would not have ended so well. Alexei asks what she thinks, who told him that she is in this place. The Viscountess asks what fabric would go with Tatiana's engagement dress, and then says that she would like to hear the opinion of people with a high level of intuition. Hearing this, the ladies were surprised and thought that the rumors that the marriage with the Duke had broken up must have been nonsense. Larissa explains that if possible, she would like to make it as luxurious as possible, and so that it would match the precious stones sent by the empress. Suddenly, Tatiana enters the room and addresses the mother. The lady asks if her daughter has arrived yet, and then says that they should have had more fun and breathed some fresh air. The main character asks what all this means, and then states that she thinks and has a lot to tell. Larissa turns to the ladies and says that that's all for today, and they need to leave. They are surprised, and the Viscountess explains that she has a headache now. The daughter asks what all this is. The mother wonders if she can't see that it's her dress. The girl asks why she needs these dresses. The lady explains that she will wear one of them for the engagement because she will soon become a duchess, and asks if she doesn't need them. Tatiana wonders who she is engaged to. She screams and asks how she can do this, knowing very well what kind of insult she was subjected to that day. The main character claims that she thought about it from the very beginning, and personally said that she should have principles, and she may never see him again. And behind her back, she told the Duke where to look for her. The daughter screams and asks if she wanted to invite this bastard home again. The mother replies that she tried to do that and thinks it would be good if she brought him home today. Tatiana screams and asks her mother how she can act like this. She explains that it will be better this way and suggests that Tiara stops, and then asks if she didn't have enough time to get her feelings in order. Mom says that she has no point in dragging it out anymore because she has suffered enough of her stupidity. Having heard this, the girl was surprised, and the lady asks what she thought and then says that to this day she has not lifted a finger. The Viscountess explains that her mother planned everything and put her in a place that would be the envy of all the girls in the world, and then asks what she should do if she can't control herself because of some little thing. Mom claims that she did everything so that the tiara could rest and get her thoughts in order, and asks if it is so difficult. The daughter says whether it is an engagement or a wedding with the Duke, it is all over. The young lady explains that she does not want to hold this man's hand, as if nothing had happened, and then asks why she thinks that she will be happy and cry with joy when she meets the Duke again. Tatiana says that this is an insult to her. Mom claims that she doesn't yet know what a real insult is. The Viscountess explains that the insult is the inability to cry even when her husband has died, and she is deeply in debt, and then asks if she knows why. The woman explains that if she had fallen in tears, her sisters would have died of hunger, and she says that it is an insult to walk 10 miles without a carriage with 4 daughters on the day her husband died. Mom claims that it is insulting to cling to a grandmother who is not happy with her and beg her for food, and she explains that she could not even eat the bread she received normally for not noticing the rumors that she was the one who tormented her husband. The Viscountess says it was insulting to hide in a barn and cover her mouth while choking from illness, and then she tells her daughter that compared to that, what happened to her means nothing because she thinks her case is much better. Mama says that as compensation for this incident, the Empress agreed to give her the Villa Mouton. She believes that it is the warmest place in Lebrun and is well suited for wintering. The Viscountess says that if such an unfortunate incident happens again, she can take a rest there. Hearing this, the main one asks the mother if she has any pride at all. This woman asks if she is talking about pride, and then claims that if she had kept her pride, she would not have been able to give birth to her. Mom says that Tatiana Lorraine de Cartier is her favorite daughter. The girl, when she entered the hall, saw a lot of jewelry and asked her mother what it was. The sister said that she didn't see that it was preparation for the engagement. The woman says that she thinks she will have to measure her size again because she has lost weight and her fingers have become thinner. Katrina asks, in surprise, if they are going to continue the engagement, and her mother asks, in surprise, if she thought this marriage would fall apart. The sister says that she will take Tatiana to her home and tells the maid to pack her things. The Viscountess says that she must have called her. The daughter explains that she came because she was worried about Tatiana. Mom says that it's the other way around. She's worried because everything is going well. Kitty asks if she's going to marry the Duke and the tiara at all costs. The woman wonders if she can bring a groom even better than him, and asks how easy she thinks it will be to find a guy with the same wealth, the same title, and the same support. The mother tells her daughter that the Duke's family is not as rotten from the inside as her husband's family, and that he did not have previous wives like her husband. The girl screams and says that the Duke has committed treason. The mother suggests that they just talk frankly, and the daughter asks if she wants to say that she didn't know this. The Viscountess claims that they grew up under her and know the entire high society world by heart, and cannot even lie to her that they did not know this, and then claims that everyone guessed. The woman says that they just didn't see the Duke cavorting with other girls, like he did that day, but they must have heard rumors about it. She asks if they thought that everything was just going so smoothly towards the wedding. At this time, the main character heard their conversation, and then turns to the sisters and asks if they really knew everything. Tatiana says that it was not someone else, but her own sisters who did not tell her. And the woman turns to the girl and says, wouldn't it be better to tell the mother everything openly instead of sitting quietly and pretending that she knows nothing? Mom asks Tatiana why she has a bag and also wonders if she really wanted to follow her older sister. The woman asks how she can do this to her and then reminds her that she raised her. Tatiana objects and says that she grew up quite obedient and did everything as her mother wanted. The Viscountess tells her daughter that she explained everything clearly to her and then asks if she still understands. Tatiana says that perhaps her mother does not understand her and says that she will not get married. Anicia suggests Tiara to go to her house first. Hearing this, Mom screams and says that she thought that although the sisters are different in the end, The Viscountess says that when she becomes a duchess, her sisters will have a prosperous future. Mom says that the eldest daughter will most likely become the owner of the Oberdin Company. And thanks to the merger with the Duchy of Atlas, the credit rating of banks and enterprises will increase. Larissa says that Marquise Laboni and Marquise Ante will be able to build hotels, not only in Laboni, but all over Freya. However, it is not known whether the duchy will cooperate, since she kicked out the mistress of the head of the house. Hearing this, Tatiana is surprised and asks if this is why she is forced to get married, and also wonders if this is the reason. Mom tells her daughter that she also benefited and suggests thinking about how she survived only because her sisters got married that way, and then asks if there are reasons why she can't, as her sisters could. Anicia turns to her mother and asks her to stop because she thinks she has already said enough, and then says that she will take Tatiana away. Mom says that if she has firmly decided to take Tatiana by the hand, then first she must let her go. Hearing this, the elder sister thought that these were not empty words, and now, even without the support of her sons-in-law, mother holds in her hands the entire aristocratic society, as well as finances, power, and connections. Larissa tells her daughter that she really didn't want to bring things to this. At that time, the girl thought that in addition, mother cooperates with the empress, and if she wants, she can easily crush them. The woman suggests that her daughter surrender because then they can return to the old times when things were best for them. Mom says that in a week there will be a victory banquet at the Imperial Palace and thinks it would be nice to announce another piece of good news on such a wonderful day. Tatiana asks, what if she doesn't like it? Mom replies that if she doesn't like it, then let her leave this house. And of course, leave everything that she gave her. The main character thought that since childhood, she had always been close to her mother. Even without a father, there was a mother who gave her everything, so she did not feel lonely or empty. Tatiana believes that while she was growing up, she understood that her mother was not always a kind person. But no matter what other people said, she never hated or was ashamed of her mother because she liked everything. The girl remembers that she has a confident mother and beautiful sisters, a magnificent dress, and jewelry, and she liked all of this. However, she followed her mother's will, not only because of this. After all, she understands what difficulties she went through after giving birth to 4 daughters and being left without a husband. The main character believes that even if what her mother does is not always the right thing to do, she thought that this was the inevitable best option. The maid asks the mistress if she is awake, and then asks why she is sitting because she thinks she should be lying down, and says that although she is not sick, she still has not eaten for several days, and then asks if she will eat anything today. The young lady understands that this cannot go on any longer, and that she needs to eat and gain strength. After all, if she cries and faints from exhaustion, then as soon as she opens her eyes, she will be dragged to the dining room. The maid suggests that the mistress not do this, but rather talk to mother. The lady says that she should not interfere in this, since she has already heard enough from the sisters. The girl asks N if she thinks she is rebelling out of her naivety. She replies that it is not so. At this time, the main character thought that she knows her mother as well as she knows her, and this woman is serious. And when it happened that the one who doubted her birth went bankrupt overnight, the newspaper agency that published the article about the immorality of the second son-in-law disappeared in an instant, and the girl thinks that if she said to leave, then she should do so, but she understands that it would be better for her not to know this until the very end, because now she cannot live as if nothing happened. The maid asks the mistress if she will eat, but the girl replies that she does not want anything. 3 days have passed since that moment, and she understands that probably on the very first day, her mother froze her accounts, and on the second day she cut off all ties with other people. The main character believes that in this house, only her body belongs to her, and only then did she realize who she is without jewelry and luxurious dresses. Tatiana says that if you think about it, she is rich. The man tells Lady Tatiana that he did not know that she had such a deep knowledge of art. She says that he exaggerates because her knowledge is noticeably inferior to the Marquise of Everton. The gentleman says that however she came to the art museum alone, and reports that there are rumors about her wedding with Duke Atlas. The man thought that he had a lucky day today because he was talking to Lady Tatiana about painting, and she was smiling at him. The lady said that the rumors about the wedding were false, and he said that the world was full of unfounded rumors. The main character says that there are rumors that the Marquise is not interested in anything except painting. Hearing this, the guy screams and claims that this is a lie. The maid asks the mistress if her actions are correct. She replies that her account is blocked and there is no inheritance. However, she is not going to receive help from her sisters, and she has no other relatives, and this is her reality. Tatiana says that these are the most normal guys among those who sent her letters, and asks the lady why she doesn't just contact the Lady Regina because she thinks that she didn't know anything. The main character says that in any case there are only 3 days left, but she believes that she needs to leave. The young lady realizes how pathetic her mother considered her, and then remembers that Regina had said before that she didn't like her. The girl says that the Marquis of Everton is a nice guy in many ways. The maid asks if she really intends to marry the Marquis of Everton. She explains that he is one of the candidates, and in any case it seems that the Marquis is still interested in her. N says that her ignorance upsets her. The lady says that there is an opera next, and they need to hurry to get there before the performance begins. The maid asks the mistress if she knows much about opera. She replies that she knows enough to communicate with the opera lover, Count Fersen. And the girl believes that a lady who will not be just a simple decoration at any time and in any place is her mother's policy. And therefore, since childhood, she received an education in art and history, as well as foreign languages and politics. The main character believes that even if all her clothes are torn off, she will not be able to take away what is in her head. The maid says that nevertheless, all the candidates that she is currently considering are two. However, the lady interrupts her and says that anyone is better than the Duke. The main thing is that he does not cheat, and she also believes that if this is greed, then one should not marry since one must accept reality. Tatiana understands that she is the only one in this situation who does not look strange, regardless of when and how she is thrown out. After all, according to imperial law, an unmarried girl can leave her family only through marriage or divorce. The young lady believes that since suitors will be flocking, again, rumors will be circulating around Lebrun tomorrow. And then she says that at least this will be enough for the Duke's family to ask for a break in relations, and then she will really be able to meet a good lover. The girl became interested in whether there is a friendly and warm family in this world. The newspapers wrote that the flower in social circles, Tatiana and the suitors flocked to the Viscount Cartier, and the engagement was just a rumor. The man reports to the lady that first at the opera and in the art gallery, and yesterday on the Sarthe River, you with Countess Torino, and where she only did not go because she thinks that the girl who is preparing for the engagement is so frivolous. Lorena asks if he's saying that her daughter is frivolous, and then asks if the Duke doesn't know better what not to do before an engagement. Alexei asks, screaming if she wants to say that he is the same as her daughter. The lady is interested in how he is different, and also she is interested in why he wants to marry her daughter, who is not like him. Hearing this, the Duke did not know what to answer. But the woman said that he saw that the one who was not used to being patient wanted his daughter to be patient to the fullest extent. The Viscountess says that he can't resist that girl, yet Alexei asks what she's going to do, and then says that what happened in the past is in the past, and they must take action. Larissa asks what other measures. After all, she thinks that it is enough for him, the Duke, to take care of this himself, and she says that if he did not know the first time, then the second time it is not allowed. At this time, the Black Wolf mercenaries examine the newspaper and say that it is really beautiful. One of them asks if a person can look so beautiful. The guy with the red hair says that it's because she's beautiful, and then asks if they've forgotten what that witch did to their captain. The man agrees and says that it was too much. The young man says that she tramples people, and that this girl is a lying witch. During the time when the emperor was bedridden, and the crown prince was waging a war of conquest, Cainel Townsend was just the head of a small band of mercenaries, and he worked as he was paid. However, Cainel volunteered to save the prince, who was missing, and knelt before the emperor, and the guy with red hair screaming says that he was just going to his death. The knight suggests that Un not get excited, and his friend tells him to leave him alone, because he worries about the captain's affairs more than his own, because the captain saved him from death in the alley. Aun screams and reports that the captain went to a dangerous place, where even the imperial knights could not go, and risked his life. The knight says that simple worship is not enough, because he didn't even pay, and now they are throwing a banquet, thereby doing him a favor, and he thinks that they probably also decided to disgrace him. Before he went to Cartman to rescue the crown prince, the first and last thing Cainel asked for was just one dance with the young queen. The letter that Cainel sent to Tatiana was read by the Viscountess right in front of all the suitors. They ridiculed the gentleman, telling him that he did not know his family or his place. The knight says that someday he will wring the neck of this fox. The guy says that Cainel is from a noble family and believes that it is not Lady Tatiana who is to blame, but the Viscountess. Own claims that like mother, like daughter, and then asks how the daughter could be different. However, the newspapers write that the youngest daughter is not engaged to Duke Atlas. The knight says that this witch wants to sell her daughter for an even higher price, and when he sees the captain, he asks for forgiveness, and then explains that he will definitely sort this out. At this time, the main character thought that the banquet in honor of the victory was tomorrow evening, and she thought that these 3 days had gone well. And if so, then tonight she would receive an offer, and she became interested in whether the Marquis of Everton would be the first. The girl understands that she will not believe that these people suddenly fell in love with her, but she believes that if they are sincere with her, like that person, then maybe she will agree. Events dedicated to soldiers going into battle on the central square by the Sarthe River, and this could have been their last social event. So out of respect, married people were forbidden to enter there. Events for knights and ladies only. It was a tradition to wind ribbons that the ladies themselves wove onto the tips of knights' swords. The main character remembers that 3 years ago, she was 18 years old. The girl with green hair asks Tatiana who she is making her ribbon for, and her friend says that she will not give the ribbon to anyone because she cannot give it to anyone, because she has not prepared anything at all. Tatiana agrees with them because she believes that otherwise a fight would have started, and then asks who needs this tape, and says that it is going to rain, and suggests going back. Suddenly, the young lady saw the guy, and she wondered why he was so gloomy. But looking at his clothes, she realized that he was a knight. The girl says that he is wearing a black robe, and it looks like he is from a black wolf. After all, her brother said that in the Empire this is a fairly well-known group of mercenaries. Hearing this, Rebecca is surprised and asks why they even invited someone who is not a nobleman. Tatiana explains that this is the last ceremony before the campaign, and believes that it was probably right for everyone who will participate in the war to gather together since such kindness can be shown. Eileen asks if Tiara is interested in such things, and then says that if her mother finds out, she will be in big trouble. The young lady explains that he just looks alike, and at that moment she thought that she was her. Rebecca says that it started raining, and suggests that they go back before it starts pouring. Eileen says that her carriage has arrived, and then tells Tatiana that she will give her a lift home. The lady suggests that she go first, as her carriage will arrive soon. The main character saw a knight walking next to her, and asked if it was his first time entering a battle. She looked at him and saw beautiful red eyes like rubies. The girl offers to take him an umbrella because she thinks it will rain all night. However, the guy refuses to take the umbrella from the lady. Tatiana says that if he gets wet in this weather, he will freeze before he gets home, and then asks if he wants to stay here and not be able to go to the battlefield. The young gentleman says that she has had enough and it is time to leave. The girl heard the coachman calling her and then quickly took the ribbon off her hair and tied it on the umbrella and asks if he will not take it like that. The girl says that this is a lady's right that no one can deny, and then says that since he visited this place, he should be kind enough to follow the rules. The main character wishes him luck and then quickly leaves. The maid asks her mistress what happened to the umbrella and then says that if her mother finds out, she will be horrified. After some time, Tatiana learned who this man was, the shame of the Marquis of Targ, a black wolf on the battlefield, and the only contender who went in search of the crown prince. They said that he sent her a letter asking her to dance one pair dance. At this time, the maid informs the mistress that a letter has arrived from the Marquis of Everton. Tatiana reads that he asks for forgiveness, but they're meeting today, and then she turns to Ain and orders her to get ready to leave right now. The lady tells the servants to deliver this to the Marquis's house carefully without spoiling anything. The main character turns to the Marquis and says that he really looks very busy, and then asks if he has an emergency in this place, that he had to cancel the meeting with her. Tatiana opens the package and says that this is a work by Ronov, painted in the year 520, according to the imperial calendar. She explains that he is from Carmenia and was a court painter to the royal family. The girl reports that 5 years ago, Carmenia became Freya's vassal, and the painting was brought here, in other words, to her mother's personal warehouse in the gallery. The main character claims that this is a rare masterpiece with fine brush strokes, and therefore believes that it is worth selling everything for it. The young lady asks if her mother had not told the Marquis that she would give it as a gift if he promised not to meet with her. The Marquis says that the Viscountess insistently asked, but the girl interrupts him and says that in the end, he got the desired painting. The gentleman asks the lady if she herself lied to him, and then says that didn't she say that she has no relationship with Duke Atlas? And then he says that they say that tomorrow at a banquet in the Imperial Palace, the two of them will announce their engagement. Tatiana says that if he thought that she deceived him, he should have asked her personally, and then turns around and leaves. The young lady realizes that the Marquis turned out to be a wimp, while another hid in a barn, and a third lost consciousness from drunkenness. The other simply ran away to avoid meeting her. At this time, the main character thinks about whether her greed was so great, because all she wanted was just a minimum of loyalty. N says, "It seems to be raining, and she will catch the bandage," and suggests going back. The lady asks where, and she answers that, of course, home. The young lady asks if she has such a place. Suddenly, the carriage stopped, and the mother got out. She asks her daughter who she is waiting for, and also wonders if there is any place left where she could go, and then says that this cannot be. Tatiana asks if mother did all this. She answers that it is true, and then asks who else besides her is capable of such a thing. The Viscountess says that the new suitors were not bad, and that the candidate's leaving was normal, but she as a mother has repeated this many times and asks if it wasn't so. The woman tells her daughter that they are made up of power and money, and she simply told them not to meet with her, and they did not ask her any questions in return. Tatiana asks the woman if she bought everything with money. The lady says that money is just the beginning, because they know that she is not to be trifled with, and then says that in fact, she wanted to tell her how her sisters were not ready to realize the fact that she is the most valuable treasure. The maid tells Madame that the mistress is in shock now, and therefore suggests in the carriage. But Lorena tells her to be quiet, and then says that she has not finished her speech yet. Mother says that it is time to find out who will suffer the most from her actions, and says that her ungrateful servant should also be fired. The main character says that it was she who hired Ian, and the mother claims that she pays the money and says that, of course, if tomorrow the daughter shows up at the Imperial Palace with an engagement ring, then this will not happen. Lorena claims that this is not coercion because she does not like such harsh measures and offers to return to Tiara at any time. The maid says that her mother's words are true and she does not understand what to do now. The mistress asks if she really thinks so. The maid says that she has seen evidence from the suitors and believes that in Freya there is no one who could challenge Madame. Tatiana says that her mother's words may be true, but she believes that much can be lost and much needs to be protected because her mother is also afraid. The young lady says that she was too careless and therefore believes that she should have gotten rid of these things from the very beginning. The maid asks the mistress where she is going because she knows that there is no one left. The main character says that there is one more person left. The knight informs the commander that a message has arrived from the estate. He asks if some war has started there. The guy with red hair says that they just returned and need to leave again, and therefore he thinks it's too much, and then asks where this time. The captain asks when she arrived. He replies that she arrived just recently. Hearing this, the gentleman quickly mounted his horse and rode away. Canel remembered the young lady and thought that this was a thing of the past, and due to his stupidity, he should have forgotten it. The guy remembers that when he came to talk to Tatiana, her mother met him and said that she was not at home and offered to leave a letter because she would pass it on. The captain recalls the Viscountess's words that contempt for a man who does not know his place and who wanted to get closer to his daughter is the worst insult possible. The next time Canel came to Tatiana, he wanted to know what her answer was, and the Viscountess said that she was not pleased, and she did not even like that. He called her name and then said that she burned that letter as soon as she saw it. The woman said she was sorry because he couldn't tell the difference between sympathy and mere empathy. And at this time, the captain does not understand why he made such a choice, even though he knew that he would be greatly humiliated. But he does not understand why he tirelessly visited that house. The guy became interested in whether he would be able to understand this if he met that girl again. The butler explains to the gentleman that he informed her that he was absent, but she said that she would wait for him. At this time, the captain does not understand what he wanted to check. In the end, the girl says that she would be grateful if he lit another fire. The main character looked at the guy and remembered that he had the same red eyes as then, and thinks that this is her last attempt because she has thrown everything away and is completely alone in this world. However, she understands that she does not need such worthless pride. The young gentleman suggests that the girl speak because he does not know what else she needs. Tatiana says that she needs him, and then explains that in fact, her mother kicked her out, and that is why she is no longer a courtier. She claims that this is inevitable, and it does not matter whether he marries her or not. The captain asks in surprise why the Viscountess did this. The girl explains that she is a person who goes to such extremes, and thought that recently seeing her mother, she realized this, because she looked at her desperate running as just a child's game. Tatiana says that no matter what her mother was like, she would never sell her married daughter again. Canel asks in surprise why him, and also wonders why she is running from her mother to him, and who he is in her eyes. The guy wonders if he looks like the one who would immediately agree if you ran to him and asked to marry him, and also wonders if she thought that he would kneel before her out of happiness. He says that they are incredible mother and daughter. The main character apologizes because she didn't want to offend him, but she understands that, in the end, everything turned out this way, and she understands that in the end, she is not the person he would be happy to see. The girl explains that because of the urgent situation, she didn't even think about it. Hearing this, the guy doesn't understand what she's even saying. The main character explains that she did not come to him to ridicule or insult him, and she says that the reason she came to him in his last moments is that the young lady says, it seems like he desired her. The young gentleman looked at the lady and thought that this girl would kneel before him, and he did not think that there would be more humiliation than then. Tatiana gives him a coin and says that it is payment for the alcohol that she dropped today, and then says that if this is not the man she is going to marry, she will not accept a treat from him. The banquet began in the imperial palace, and at this time the daughter tells her mother that the tiara arrived in the middle of the night and she is still sleeping, and therefore she left her to rest since they have enough time. Hearing this, Larissa thought that she had taken care of all the suitors in Lebanon and thought that she had nowhere to go. After all, she gave her enough time to realize her mistake and come back. The Viscountess says that it is still a long way off for the banquet to begin, but she still needs to get up slowly and prepare to get to the very heights. The husband of the first daughter, Anesia Count Oberdine, asks Larissa if she is in too much of a hurry. She replies that she thinks that her eldest son-in-law is very dissatisfied with her. The gentleman asks if Tiara isn't still so young, because he thinks it looked like the young girl was in obvious shock, and then asks how about giving her time to think. The Viscountess explains that she knows the Count treats the tiara like a daughter, but Anesia got married when she was 1 year younger than the tiara. Then she reminds the Count that he himself was in a hurry. Viviana's fourth daughter, Marquis Laboni, says that the Black Wolf will also come to today's banquet, and this time the Crown Prince intends to bestow a title on him. The husband of Katrina's third daughter, Marquis Ante, reports that he also heard about the problem of confirming nobility, and they say that he will be appointed a duke. But it is not so simple, because the title of baron will be enough. The gentleman says that this title is not easy to obtain, and believes that in any case he really did save the life of the crown prince. The Viscountess says that it is not such a big deal, and she remembers how he first came to meet Tatiana, but she understands that it was not easy even then. Larissa thought that he could be a blood relative of the Marquis of Targa, or similar just illegitimate children. 26 years ago, a huge scandal erupted when Lavren of the Marquisate of Targa gave birth to a child herself. Lavren died from postpartum pain, and the child born without a father became a disgrace to the Marquisate's house. The Viscountess claims that regardless of whether the illegitimate child becomes a baron or a duke, he should in no way be associated with the tiara. The woman thought about how she had made him understand this 3 years ago by touching a raw nerve. The Marquis says that he was subjected to such humiliation and therefore believes that he will not try again. Mr. Ante smiles and says that he himself misunderstood everything back then. Those were the times when letters were flying to Tatiana, even though Canel was the leader of a mercenary squad gaining fame. The Viscountess used him as an example that he had no right to dare to look at her daughter. This process of public humiliation was cruel. The confession of mockery was like a public execution without beheading. In this process revealed his origin, because before that he was considered an ordinary mercenary from the slums. The gentleman says that he wonders whether the Marquis of Targa regretted this, since if he had received him properly as his grandson, all the honors would have gone to the Marquis's house. Hearing this, Larissa asks if it is this old man, and then claims that it is incomprehensible to the mind. And at that time, she thought that fools who do not know that she rejected him, who knows? The woman tells him not to exaggerate, and then tells him that when his daughter was alive, he was about in the middle. And then she tells him that lately he has been leading a reclusive life, and therefore thinks it would be better to choose his grandson. The Marquis says that where else can one find such an irony of fate when a grandson who was thrown out with his own hands returned as a war hero. However, he believes that in any case, he needs to work hard to become a baron. The man says that it is not yet known whether anyone will accept a man who does not even know who his father is. Marquis Oberdine says that he seems to be very popular nonetheless, and asks if there was a single battle without his participation. And then he says that he will have to be given some title, since he has a high reputation among the knights and people of the empire. The Marquis claims that they cannot ignore the opinion of the people of the empire. The Viscountess says that they should do so then. Auntie says that in any case, at least today, they should express their gratitude to the wolf, since thanks to him, the talk about the tiara has died down. The man asks if the rumors about tiara going back and forth with different men haven't stopped. The woman says that she didn't think that there would be a case for which she would be grateful to this man. The Viscountess says that later the Duke of Atlas will appear with the Empress, and then tells her daughter that it would be necessary to call Tatiana to be with them in the place of the future Duchess. And at that time, she thought that then all the attention of the secular gentleman will be riveted to her daughter. At this time on the outskirts of Lebrun, a woman asks a young gentleman why he constantly comes to this outskirts. Canel tells her to stay inside, and then asks why she came out, and also asks if she needs anything. Grandma says that it is enough for her, because she believes that everything is a joy for an old woman like her, and she never thought that her old age would be so peaceful. The woman says that she would like to take a good look at their master's face, but her eyes are not the same. And then she says that he has grown up so outstanding, and if only Mrs. Lavren were still alive. But the guy interrupts her and says that he has no business with a dead man. The grandmother asks why the busy gentleman came all this way. He wonders why she asks. The woman explains that the gentleman always comes to her only when he has a very important matter to attend to. And then she says that one day he showed up before he went to rescue the crown prince. Canel says that nothing happened. Grandma says that it looks like he didn't sleep all night, because since childhood he had such eyes. If he didn't sleep all night, and then touches his face. The guy takes her hand away and says that if she is going to say something strange, but the woman interrupts and says that she will not dissuade her because she believes that her master should at least once do what he wants. Grandma says that he did it and lived as he wanted. At this time, the maid looked at the mistress in surprise and asked why she wore a black dress to the banquet where the engagement would be announced. Tatiana said that it suited her. Canel tells his grandmother not to say such things because she believes that he never wanted anything. At this time, the guy remembered that, as a child, there was a watch that he wanted to get. Miss Hart had a carriage accident, so all the money he had saved went to pay the hospital bills, but it was something he was drawn to for no reason. And if he had found out for himself that the watch had no value, he would have thrown it away without a second thought. Canel understands that if he had the opportunity to personally see this girl, there would be no regrets. The maid offers the mistress to go together, as she will accompany her. The lady objects and says that it is not necessary, and at that time, she thought that she cannot even be responsible for any. Only at this time did the main character realize that many years ago, she had hurt someone's heart without even knowing it. And later she heard rumors about what her mother had done. The young lady recalls that she then asked the Black Wolf to apologize for her mother, but he objected and said that it was unnecessary, and then asked if she sympathized with him. Hearing this, the girl was surprised. He says that what happened then, and he no longer needs anything, and then asked if she looks down on him. Tatiana understands that he had a look of contempt for her, and a sharp refusal that she had never heard before, and also red eyes burning with anger and emptiness. The young lady does not understand what she did, and no matter how much her mother drove him into a corner, she did not dare to come to this man, because then she thought only about those eyes, and believed that he still wanted her. The main character reflects on the fact that maybe she really did look down on this man. The girl understands that he is a man who has nothing to lose and nothing to protect, and she was sure that he would not be able to refuse her. She wondered if she had the right to judge her mother. When the main character arrived at the palace, the maid said that all the family members, Duke Atlas and Her Majesty too, were waiting for Tatiana. At this time, the young lady thought that now she had no way back since she had done everything she could and gone as far as possible. When Tatiana entered the hall, she saw the surprised looks of the aristocrats who were looking at her because she was wearing a black dress. The Viscountess invites her daughter to come to her because she knew that the girl would come. The main character tells her mother that she thought all night whether she had the right to judge her mother, and then says that at least for her, it was possible because who else but her would dare to judge. Tatiana says that this is possible because she lived her life without going against her mother's will. The Duke screams and asks Tiara why she didn't come to him and what she was doing. She asks if he is serious, and then says that the wound she received will not go away. And at that time, she thought that the wounds she inflicted on someone will never heal. The young lady believes that she still has a chance not to be like her mother, because at least she doesn't want to regret it. Mother tells her daughter to think carefully because she won't be able to help, because she doesn't know what she believes in. All the aristocrats were surprised when they saw Kynel. He came up to Tatiana and gave her a coin, and then said that he thought he should return it because he didn't think that they had the kind of relationship that required payment. The young gentleman asks the lady if she is going to refuse. Hearing this, the girl takes the coin, and at this time he holds her hand. The next day, the newspapers wrote that Tatiana was holding the hand of not the Duke, but a war hero. But the truth of the day was that she had a close relationship with him. The newspaper wrote about the scene of Viscountess Cartier fainting full of sadness and crying. After reading this, the Viscountess screamed and asked who said that she fainted because she barely closed her eyes. Larissa screams and asks how he dares to marry her daughter, a bloodied war murderer. The daughter suggests that her mother calm down and then says that all of LeBron's reporters have gathered outside. She claims that there is no need for more useless gossip because this is not the first time that Regina has gotten divorced. And screaming, she says that it would be better if she got divorced. Mom asks how she could marry this beast and also wonders when she met that guy. The Viscountess thinks that he must have seduced her when she heard that he was a hero and thought that he would succeed and twisted her daughter. The woman thinks that everything should be like this and thinks that her daughter cannot turn away from her because among the 5 daughters, she is the most obedient and the most beautiful and feminine. The Viscountess says that even Regina, who always argued with her, got married 3 times as she ordered. The Marquis says that a protest will soon come from the Duchy of Atlas and believes that Her Majesty will not sit idly by either. As in the case of trade, it is impossible to predict how things will be with the banks. The Viscountess says that the Empress is not the kind of person to sit quietly, and Duke Atlas is not in a position to dare to say such a thing to her. Larissa claims that if a group of traders can't stand it, then it's enough to demolish them, and when the banks start talking nonsense again, she'll withdraw all her money. The woman asks if there are any more problems. She claims that everything can be solved one by one, and then tells them to call the lawyers right now and get ready to go out. Katrina says that this is a big problem because the tiara chose the black wolf out of all the men. She thinks that sister looked at appearance, and she is young and does not understand this. Viviana says that in any case, when the fire goes out, everything will be exactly the same. And at that time, she thought that this wedding should not take place. But she understands that she alone will not be able to resist this. At the training ground of the Black Wolf mercenary forces, the knights are confused as to how Cartier is their captain's girlfriend. After reading the newspaper, Owen screams and claims that it is nonsense, and then asks what is wrong with this Fox Cartier and their captain. He wonders why their captain is marrying this girl, and if there is something they don't know about. The guy screams and says that everyone is interested, and he is not the only one. The knight says that if you read the articles, you might think that this is the novel of the century, and asks if that is true. The girl with red hair says that if it were a lie, then she would not have been allowed into the newspapers. Hearing this, the captain asks why they are interested in this, and also wonders if he should answer. At this point, the knights realize that this was true. The Lord asks if there are any reasons why he cannot marry this girl. Owen says that he just doesn't know her, and then claims that this girl is a witch and she can't be an angel. He thinks that these witches probably have some kind of plan, and since His Highness the Crown Prince will give the gentleman the title of Duke, he assumes that they are doing this so that he will not receive the title. The knight says that the gentleman did not receive the title because he was not at the banquet and therefore simply returned, and believes that this is definitely all the work of that witch. The dark-haired guy says that the captain has rejected the title several times already. Owen asks if he thinks that now everything is the same as then, and then says that the heroes have expanded Freya's territory twice, and believes that if they have a conscience, they should give him something. The knight says that the captain will deal with this matter himself, and as was said earlier, Lady Tatiana is a real noblewoman, and therefore he is sure that this will benefit the captain in the future. Canel claims that he never expected something like this from her, and then he wags to take Owen away. The guy with red hair objects and says that even if she is beautiful, she is just as beautiful, and when he saw the main character, he was surprised. The knights looked at the girl and said that, in life, she was even more beautiful. Tatiana says that she came without warning and understands that she ignorantly disturbed the busy knights. The captain asks if she heard everything. The lady replies that she doesn't pay attention to it because it's not the first time she's heard something like that. Canel asks the girl what happened and why she came all this way. Tatiana says that she came with a request and reports that she has a servant named N, and she would like to bring her with her. The young gentleman asks if this is all. She explains that she chose it herself and therefore would like to be responsible for it until the end, if possible. He agrees. The captain says that the butler can't do everything as it should be, and he asks to prepare food and clothes as she needs. And then he asks where her house is and why she doesn't come there. Canel says that if he is there, what is she going to do? The lady asks, in surprise, if they are going to get married. He replies that it will take time to prepare. The girl says that it means it's not all that simple, but she thinks that in 3 days it would be great. Tatiana asks if he will have time this week on Friday. She explains that she also did not want to rush so much, but thinks that this is the last day. Hearing this, the guy asks in surprise what this means. The girl explains that this is the last line when they can be legally approved as a married couple in the palace temple. The captain says that he doesn't think that the temple will be open for only 1 day and asks if she wants to say that approval of marriage is given looking at what kind of people the main character objects and says that this is not so, because the archbishop as a representative of the goddess is fair and everyone is equal before God, but not everyone is equal before her mother. Tatiana explains that they have about 5 days before her mother bribes the archbishop. The guy asks if God is fair to everyone. The young lady explains that this is because the archbishop is also a human being, and ordinary people would immediately accept her mother's offer, but someone like the archbishop is about 3 times that, and it would take 5 days to do something like that. Canel asks if that's why she's suggesting they get married on Friday. She says that in any case, all the jewelry stores and clothing stores should be closed, since she assumes her mother has rented or bought everything. The girl explains that the same applies to flower shops, wine shops, and grocery stores, and Mom will probably invite the archbishop to the Cartier villa in Bark. After all, his back hurts, and there is a famous hot spring there. Tatiana says that if he goes there, it will take at least a month, and she thinks that Friday this week would be best, and then asks what he thinks. The captain reports that only now has the realization come to him that he will marry Cartier. The main character says that it would be better if these were curses, because in any case, she is not expecting a grand wedding, since it is enough for her that the marriage is recognized by imperial law. Hearing this, the guy does not understand whether this is really the order of things for a person who is preparing for a grand wedding, and then he agrees and says that he will do so. Tatiana says that then she will come back, and if it will be difficult for him on Friday, then they can postpone it, so she can just tell her about it. The main character apologizes, and he asks why. The lady says that 3 years ago, when she said that she would accept his marriage proposal, and then says that she knows that he only wants her body, and suggests not to worry, because she has not forgotten. The knights are surprised to say that they saw the goddess in person, and believe that she really does look like the statue of the goddess in the temple, and also understand that she is amazing. Kano says he thought something serious had happened, but it turned out everything was fine. The knight says he told the butler to hire more workers because he was getting a wife soon. The guy offers to check the schedule and then says that after regular training, the gentleman must go to Mount Tyrone to clear it of animals. And no matter what, he must go there on Friday until then. At this time, the young gentleman was thinking only about the girl, and he believed that the watch that he could not get and that the girl does not fit the image of an apology, and believes that there is no need to complicate everything because she came to him herself and is not going to return, as the captain tells him not to plan anything for Friday. Hearing this, the guy says that this Friday we need to head to Mount Tyrone, and then says that if he doesn't have anything serious, the gentleman says that he is getting married. Hearing this, the knight is surprised and asks what he said. Meanwhile, in the Townsend mansion, the maid tells her mistress that everyone said she was seduced by a demon and had no choice but to die. Then she asks to be kidnapped and says that this red hair, and if she meets him again, he will get it from her because he pushed her into the cart like a load, and as if he knew that she would be kicked out of the vice county today. The maid cries and then says that she thought that the mistress had really died and that she would never see her again. At this time, the main character thought that she, of course, said that she wanted to bring N, but not in such a rude way. The mistress says that if it is a burden to her to be with her, she will find out about other places. The maid asks in surprise what she is saying, and then claims that she will be next to the mistress. Tatiana says that she is no longer a courtier. On claims that nevertheless the mistress remains the mistress, and that is enough for her because she is the best for her. The maid says that she doesn't care what anyone says, but she wants to always be with her mistress, and then asks if this is really that man's house. The main character realizes that the mansion is old, and the furniture is not even properly furnished, and says that she never thought that the lady would have to live in such a place, and claims that if she had a little more time, she would not have to be in such a place. The young lady explains that it would be the same in a month or a year, and no one would want to be the first to take her hand, except for men. The maid asks what kind of person he is. She replies that she doesn't know, because he is neither a knight nor a gentleman. He is from that class of people she has never met before. The girl believes that he is the only person who extended his hand to her when she was in trouble, and thus showed himself to be a good person, but only brought her here. After that, their meetings can be counted on the fingers of one hand, including when she herself went to the training ground. The main character believed that after the first day he would come to her at any time, but he never came home, and if he decided to leave everything like that, she does not understand why he brought her. Tatiana thought about how the person she had placed great hopes on had turned their back on her, and the person from whom she had expected nothing took her hand and then said that she was simply grateful to him, and believed that this was quite enough for now. The butler informs the lady that he has brought tea from the teak tree in the south, and that this is a place that is famous for tea production. The man explains that he got it from Bachman's shop as a special item. Then he says that afternoon, tea is a solid foundation for a strong family. The butler says that since they have created a new family, they should pay attention to family traditions. N says that the aroma is really impressive. The man thanks her for noticing. The lady thought that maybe there was one thing she could help with, and then she said that it was really very good. The girl thought that this was a crude fake from the class. Larissa says that it is tea that is delivered by air directly from the teak, and her eldest son-in-law, Count Oberdine, owns a tea plantation there, and then asks the guy how he likes it. Kanel says she doesn't have to try so hard. She asks how she doesn't have to, when she thinks their destinies are so intertwined. At this time, the captain thought that this woman was sitting in a separate annex to the imperial palace and treating her subordinates like a mistress. The Viscountess reports that she shielded this girl from all the poisonous people who appeared before her and strictly taught that ladies should not meet with anyone except gentlemen. Larissa says that her daughter did this, and that's why she thinks that she is still too young and naive. and then she asks if she shouldn't do something for her child since she is her mother. At this time, the woman thought that the marriage of an illegitimate child required a legal guarantor, and he had no choice but to appear at the palace today. Larissa asks how the crown prince is doing, as she believes that this is a vital request, and asks if the marriage guarantee is still in the book depository. The woman says that when the father is not there, it is inconvenient. The guy says that he does not feel any inconvenience. She objects and says that it cannot be. The Viscountess says that for the one who bears the name of a hero, to ask for supporting data is truly unbearable, and to have such a guarantor as His Majesty, the Crown Prince, is a great rarity. Larissa says that thanks to this, she was able to meet him easily. He asks if she was waiting for him. The lady says that she does not approve of their marriage, and she does not know about the law, but her word is not, and this means that she will not get anything from marrying him. The woman says that she is going to give them some compensation, and says that she has a deed to the Marquis of Targa's house. The Viscountess reveals that she bought the mansion as soon as she saw it earlier, but didn't know she could use it like that. She then claims that he can do whatever he wants with it, and that she will fill it with the highest quality from the bedding to every spoon. Canel says that he refuses because he was not interested in the place from the beginning, and claims that he does not want to have anything to do with this mansion. Hearing this, the lady thought that he would be a little interested because Marquise Targa despised him, but she understands that everything is different. Larissa says that the crown prince will give him a title, and therefore he will become the head of the family. And then they say that the value of aristocrats is determined not by titles, but by popular recognition. The guy asks what's wrong with Togo. She says that she will become their support and promises that she will establish connections worthy of the title, because she believes that they will be like noble aristocrats who have taken root and lived in Lebrun for 1,000 years. At this time, the young gentleman thought that Cartier could make even an orphan from the slums look like a prince. The Viscountess says that he has had a hard time and has gone through difficult times, and then asks if it is time for him to slowly settle down. At this time, the captain thought that he would pretend that he had not heard anything. The woman asks if this is revenge, and she understands that he has no choice but to hate her, and if she were in his place, she would want to tear such a person apart. Larissa asks if she should kneel before him. However, the guy doesn't answer, and she says that she admits that she went too far 3 years ago. Canel asks if she is going to apologize to him. Lady replies that she is not going to, and even if she returns at that time, she will do the same. The lady says that Tatiana Laurent de Cartier is the only one of 5 daughters who inherited her maiden name, but everyone suspected the child's biological father. But rich people are like that. After all, there is no gratitude, only doubts. The Viscountess says that if she does not recognize Tatiana as a member of the Viscountess's family, Cartier, then she wanted to make it so that it could not be ignored anywhere in the world. The woman says that she did it anyway and gave this child everything she could because she believes that it is never too late to be punished for causing harm even after death. Larissa says that no one else, and only he, will know how strict people's views are on birth and origin. The captain says he wouldn't say he doesn't know. She offers to keep her daughter. The Viscountess says that fortunately he was a child then, so he doesn't remember anything, but now he will never forget how people point fingers at him. The lady says she doesn't know how long a child who has never been through hard times can hold out. He says she can keep an eye on him then. Hearing this, the woman was surprised, and the young gentleman said that since she is deeply attached to her daughter, he thinks that he will continue to look after her. Larissa screams and asks what he is saying. The captain says that he is getting married. She wonders why he loves her daughter. The Viscountess claims that in that case he should leave her because she believes that a deep hole awaits him ahead, and asks why she wants to drag her beloved into it. Canel says that he thinks she herself does not yet know how unshakable her precious daughter is, who decided to get married. She says that he is a man who does not love her. The young gentleman says, does that mean he doesn't love her daughter so much that he has to pull her out of a deep hole? And then he says that maybe she doesn't know, but the girl is even more naive. But she thinks that the Viscountess knows better. The woman suggests that he not think that this is where it all ends, because she believes that there are a lot of ways to cover up this successful mercenary squad. The young master offers her to try if she can enter his territory. He informs her that His Highness has approved, and he has been given autonomy over his land in lieu of a title that will not be recognized. At this time, the woman thought that she understood that nothing could be done, and she did not want to use this method. The maid tells the mistress that they are finally out to have fun. The lady says that it sounds as if they have not been able to go out freely before, and objects and says that this is not the issue, and explains that until recently they wanted private property, but the mercenary squad's training ground and the entire territory belonged to the townsman, because she did not think that his private land would be so huge. The maid offers the lady to look at it and asks if she likes it. Tatiana says that the butler has prepared all the dresses and decorations. He asks if she is really talking about that pile of garbage, and then says that the lady herself saw that all this is terrible because she does not understand how the lady can wear such a dress. The main character says that there is nothing to be done about it because she cannot prepare everything herself, but the maid says that in any case they were too bad. Anne looked at the people around her and saw their angry looks. Suddenly, the main character saw Eileen and thought that it was not that she did not see her, but that she was avoiding her. Eileen asks if she came shopping, and at that moment, the girl thought that of course she was used to the cold attitude of others, and then asks if she was also shopping. A friend says that she had a meeting, and she was going to meet Rebecca, and she needs to go. Eileen screams and tells her not to pretend to worry about her, because she thinks that now is not the time to worry about others, and she thinks that there is no one who doesn't know about her situation. Grandpa says that in the eyes of someone like Tatiana, she looks pathetic since she spends time with Rebecca, who mocks her and asks where such a carefree girl comes from. How can she know what she feels? Eileen screams and asks if she thinks that at best he can just throw things at her out of pity. Tatiana asks if she said that she feels sorry for her. The girl asks in surprise if that is not true, and then claims that she is a queen who has everything, and it is easy for her. Eileen says that she can give up everything as she wants, and even marry a black wolf, but someone like her, if it weren't for Rebecca, no one would accept her in social circles. The girl says that this means that she is not in a position to selectively meet people like her. Tatiana says that thanks to her, she understood everything clearly, and then says that she cannot understand the correctness of her reckless choice, and turns around and leaves. The newspapers wrote that the reaper Canel Townsend denies love for Lady Tatiana. However, the main character believes that only this man is real. The girl saw her older sister and then told the maid to go first because she would be back soon. Anesia tells Tiara to look at her face and then asks in surprise what is wrong with her appearance and what kind of clothes she is wearing. The young lady asks if she has come to say this. The sister suggests that they go together since she will be staying in their villa. Anesia reports that her eldest son-in-law has prepared a boat in the port and suggests that she rest there until everything calms down, and then suggests that she not worry since Kitty and Vivi will take care of the newspapers and social circles. The sister claims that nothing will happen and thinks that she has nothing to worry about, but the young lady says that she will not go. The big sister asks if she is still angry, and then says that she will explain everything to her first. The main character says that this is not the case. The girl asks how this is possible, and wonders how long she is going to be stubborn, and then asks her not to do this, because she is her sister who begs her not to do this. Anesia says that the sisters will take care of everything, and she will just sit quietly and think that nothing bad will happen. Tatiana asks if she knows that she looks like her mother by doing this. And then she says that initially she was angry at the sisters, but is still not sure that she is doing this for this reason. The sister asks what the problem is then, and whether it is really because of this man. The main character says that she realized how offensive and painful it is when those you trust turn away from her, and therefore she cannot become the same, knowing this. The young lady explains that she knows it's wrong, but doesn't want to repeat it because she believes she got the man involved. Anesia claims that she didn't read the newspaper and doesn't know what the man said, and then reports that he said he didn't love her right in front of her mother. The girl asks if her sisters always said they loved her. The sister says they never intended to send her to the Duke. Tatiana says that she knows that it was not only about the profit that her sisters receive, and not because Alexei Atlas is a rich duke and the empress's nephew. After all, he has no brothers or sisters to argue over the inheritance, so he thinks that there would be no problems. The girl says that she wants to say that she has many sisters, so she has never had a hard time or hated anything, and then claims that it has always been like this. Tatiana says that even now she feels endless disgust and resentment and leaves. The main character thought that she would be lying if she said that she wasn't shaking. When the girl returned to the palace, she saw the gentleman and asked in surprise why he was there. He said that he heard that her sister had arrived and then asked why only now. Kanel asks if she wanted to take her away. The girl explains that she missed her and that's why she came. Tatiana asks how she will escape and then says that she has nowhere to go. He asks why she has nowhere to go and then claims that this is her home now. The captain says that he will explain to her, and then says that she came to him and proposed marriage, and at the same time, he makes such an expression on his face when her sister just came to visit her. The girl asks what her facial expression is. He answers something like that, and then tells her that she needs to express herself correctly. Tatiana says that she saw the newspaper, and then reports that he became more popular than her, and at that time she thought that it would be better to have a person who does not love her because she believes that he will no longer hate her. The young lady says that she never thought that her mother would want to meet him personally, and thinks that it is not worth saying this, but it is obvious what he was talking about with her. The guy says that's why she acts like the world around her has collapsed. The lady explains that she's not angry, she's just worried. Kanel says that if she gets angry and says that she won't marry him, they will still get married. At this time, the main character thought that this man does not change. And then she says that those who are still looking through the newspaper think that he answered her mother well. He claims that this is what the reporters wanted. The girl asks if he understands now, and explains that this is what she wanted if he marries her, and then asks if this suits him. The young gentleman says that regardless of her will, everything around will be unsettled, and they will talk about things that did not happen, and reporters will follow them all day long. The girl suggests that he not take this lightly, since she is no longer a courtier, and she will not be able to receive any help or protection. Kanel claims that he never wanted her to be part of that family. Hearing this, the main character thought that this man had always been like this. When the lady saw the dirty armor, she thought that he rushed here without even changing clothes, and it seemed to her that he was in a great hurry. Tatiana claims that she is not joking and believes that he may suffer damage. He asks if he looks like such a person. The young lady objects and says that this cannot be, because she believes that he will never be a loser. Then she suggests that he should always be vigilant, because she believes that even now there may be reporters hiding nearby. The main character says that she knows better what to do in such a situation. He asks what to do. The girl explains that they must show their relationship. The guy grabbed the lady and then kissed her. The girl thought that this man wanted her even if it was not love. The wedding of these two did not have a grand ceremony or any kind of reception like other nobles. It took place in an old outbuilding in the corner of the mansion. Simplified priestly blessing and marriage declaration form. This was a marriage-only wedding ceremony, where all that was required was a simplified priestly blessing and marriage declaration form. The only guests were mercenaries from the Black Wolf Squad. The knight says that Tatiana Cartier got married, and he doesn't understand how the captain managed to get the princess herself. The guy with green hair says that she is no longer a princess or even a viscountess, but now just the captain's wife. The knight says that he bought all the postcards with her image that come out every year, and even went to get a calendar that can only be obtained at the Cartier family hotels, and also bought that expensive portrait of Lady Tatiana when the jewelry store opened. The guy says that he went to the temple every day to see the statue of an angel created in the image of Lady Tatiana. And then he says that there was a time when he almost died from a spear during a battle. But Lady Tatiana appeared before him in the form of a goddess. Owen calls the guy an idiot and tells him to stop talking nonsense. He then claims that every temple has the same statue of the same goddess and asks if her face is the only one that comes to mind. The red-haired knight claims that a woman's face is not everything. The lieutenant tells the captain to understand them because they all still find it hard to believe. Kaynell thought that this girl really did marry him, and he also wondered if she remembered the kiss that day. The main character thanked the Black Wolf Knights for coming today. Owen asks the lady if she is happy now, and then says that their captain is such a good man, and she just desired him. And at that moment, the lieutenant shuts his mouth and says that he cannot tell the lady such things. The guy says that if he behaves this way towards the lady, then God will punish him because he believes that the goddess Angel and Lady Tatiana are equal. Hearing this, Tatiana thought that everything was clear to her, and then said that they no longer needed to worry about the captain, since he was a valuable person for all of them, and she would try her best. The main character says that she hopes they had a good time. The knight looked at the main character and thought that her dress was inappropriate. The young lady, being in the gentleman's room, reflects on the fact that he is a man who lived a completely different life. She remembered that kiss and thought that there is nothing wrong with touching her husband, and thinks that it is for the better. Kaynell enters the room and asks if everything is okay. He explains that Owen didn't have any evil intentions, it's just his character, and of course, he thinks it's too much to say to her. The girl suggests leaving everything as is, because she thinks that he probably doesn't like her, and then says what to do if he's not the only one who hates her. The guy asks in surprise why they hate her. She says that how can she know what's on people's minds, and then says that he didn't care about her mother either. The gentleman asks whether he should have scolded her, and then says that she is still her mother. Lady says that it is necessary to accept that Owen is a part of him. Kaynell asks in surprise why this guy is a part of him, and then says that her understanding is much deeper than expected. The young lady explains that she often hears this. He asks how much she knows. At this time, the main character thought that this man, even in a regular suit, looks impressive, and thinks that he is the most ideal gentleman. Kaynell asks the girl why she can't look at him, and say that she didn't even have time to prepare because of her busy schedule, and if she didn't like something, she should have said so in advance, because the ceremony was already over. The guy says that she made an oath before the priest and will never be able to break it, and thinks that it was the best thing, and now he is already her husband. Tatiana objects and says that everything is not so, and then says that he can look at the marriage contract. The young lady explains that it should have been written before the wedding, but she didn't have time, and first suggests checking what she wrote, and then she can correct it. The main character reports that she showed it to the priest, and he said that if the gentleman agrees, he can submit it to the imperial administration right now, and then reports that she has no dowry or property, and he knows about it. The guy asks why it is written twice, and also wants to know if it means bed twice a day. She answers that once a month, and explains that everyone does it for different reasons. Kaynell asks for various reasons. She answers that it's just that all the other nobles did it. After all, marital relations are intended to conceive an heir, and everyone knows how to get pleasure from it. The young gentleman asks in surprise why he needs to know about other people's bedrooms, and then he asks what this empty space is. She replies that she left it there on purpose because he must have some demands on her too. The guy asks if there is what she wants from him. The girl tells him not to cheat on her because she will not tolerate other women and asks him only for this. Hearing this, the captain hugs the girl and then kisses her. He took the girl in his arms and then laid her on the bed. Canel tells his wife that she has a fever. She asks in surprise what he is talking about. The young gentleman asks if she herself knows the state of her body. The lady replies that it just seems that way to him and that it is a little hot in the room. A guy kisses a girl and then suggests that she first take a rest. She asks how, so he says that he doesn't know where she heard all this, but he's not such a beast. Tatiana tells her husband that she will not subtract today from those 2 times and will gladly allow him to do everything even without her permission. Canel says it's a very generous decision, and it's as if Cartier wasn't there. At this time in the Duchy of Atlas, Alexei screams and asks his aunt if they are married yet and says that he does not understand how this impudent girl got married. The empress asks if everyone at Lebrun knew about it and then says that she thought that among all of them, this girl was the quietest, but who would have thought that she would beat her mother because she believes that blood does not lie. The Duke says that his head is spinning, and who would have thought that this girl would take revenge on him? He only thinks that she has gone out of her mind and committed such a stupidity. Her Majesty asks if they had a romantic relationship before. At this time, the guy thought that they did not, and the Black Wolf had already been disgraced unilaterally. Alexei wonders what people will think now, and how he, the head of the Duchy of Atlas, is worse than an illegitimate child. The Empress claims that everything will soon calm down, and then asks why he is so worried. He says that he thinks that his aunt would not be able to relax so much in his place. The woman wonders if the illegitimate child became a hero of the empire after he saved the prince, and says that now he has come to the crown prince. The Empress thought that she already had a lot of problems because earlier he returned earlier and the Black Wolf was guarding him. She would rather he died quietly on the battlefield. Rainier found himself on the battlefield as a teenager. The crown prince's maternal line was insignificant, so it was easy for the Atlas Duchy to create such an atmosphere and send him to the battlefield. The crown prince, who was too decisive, took part in most wars. He was on the brink of death many times for almost 30 years. However, he still wanders the battlefield while he is over 40, so his position has changed. Rainier, having no wife and child and no connections in Arctic society, his existence was lost. Meanwhile, Charlize has established herself as an empress, and her son has just turned 10. Although he is weak in body, but if the empress and relatives on the mother's side support, then everything will be easily resolved. In addition, the emperor has been bedridden for several years, so the Freya Empire is in the hands of the Duchy of Atlas. And in order for the young son of the empress to ascend to the throne, the connections and power of the Cartier family are needed, as well as the establishment of relationships and the charisma of the Viscountess. The Empress thought it was a perfect match in which everything matched. Among the families involved in the war, the young master says that there are rumors that the crown prince should be chosen as the emperor. Hearing this, Charlize thought that they needed to buy time because the Black Wolf had won, there was no room for war. She said that in any case, he was a low bastard. Alexei asks if the crown prince cares about him especially. The Empress replies that he cannot keep the aristocracy in his hands, so he aimed to keep this degenerate from himself, since it was the Black Wolf who saved him from the threat of death earlier. Her Majesty screams and says that he could have been patient a little longer, and then asks why he couldn't resist this girl and created such a problem. The Duke asks what sense this makes now, and then says that if Tatiana had opened up to him at least a little, he wonders if he would have done the same. Alexei claims that she is a lady capable of becoming a queen, pretending to be so noble, making herself unattainable. He claims that she comes from a viscounty and pretended to be a princess and ended up with this low-class man. The young gentleman asks if she met the Viscountess. and also wonders what she said. At this time, the empress remembered the conversation about how this woman asked if she had such a daughter, and then said that Larissa was capable of such a thing. Alexei says that this is indeed a crazy family, because he believes that the years of rising from the bottom to the top by selling his daughters were not in vain. Her Majesty thinks that Larissa Laurent de Cartier is a woman who is ready to despise her daughter or to delay if it will harm her, and then asks whether she should call her clever because she thinks that she acts quite cleverly. The young gentleman asks what to do. Then the woman says that since Tatiana was kicked out, there is nothing that can be done, but she believes that she should take responsibility for the damage caused to them. Alexei asks what after she answers for everything. The empress says that he also needs to marry into a normal family. The Duke claims that Tatiana was originally his woman. Her Majesty asks in surprise if he is going to bring a divorcee into his home. The woman asks if he thinks something like this is allowed in the Duchy of Atlas, and asks if he knows what kind of family they have. The empress claims that a woman who does not know her place and who has rejected the post of duchess will be rejected by their side, and then says that this is absurd and she cannot listen to it. Her Majesty claims that he must marry a girl from a family that is incomparable to the Viscountcy Cartier, and which has a deep history. Outside of LeBron Blackwolf, mercenaries fought the beasts. The captain was thinking that he thought he would feel calmer after marriage, and then he remembers his wife and doesn't understand why she smiles and what thoughts are in her little head, and especially this strange marriage contract of hers. Canel thought about how he didn't want to not understand or know about the principles of aristocrats, and he thinks that twice is simply unthinkable, because he thinks that it would be better if she told him to finish off two monsters. The lieutenant turns to the captain and asks if Madame mentioned dresses or accessories. He says he's worried about whether her mood has been spoiled. Canel asks what he is talking about, and then says that he ordered the butler to do everything as she wants. The lieutenant says that it is so, but everything was different from what he had seen before, of aristocratic origin. He asks in surprise, in what sense? The captain asks if he means to say that Tatiana was missing something. The man says that Madame is now the mistress of Townsend, and until now the butler managed the house. But in aristocratic families, the mistress usually runs the house. The young gentleman asks why he is only now talking about this. The knight replies that he simply did not ask, and at that time thought that he did not understand why he felt guilty. The lieutenant explains that not everyone is like this, and before marriage family members agree, and then follow this, and also claims that trust between spouses is necessary. The captain asks if this is so, if this woman will manage the house without thinking about it. He answers that it is approximately so, but it seems to him that it is something completely different. At this time, the main character lying on the bed thought that yesterday she got married, and those days when she was worried that Canel would change his mind were over, and also thought that she could stay in this place. The girl understands that since they got married now, he won't be able to kick her out, and no matter what anyone says from that moment on, she is Tatiana Townsend. The maid asks the madam if she is awake. The mistress sees several more servants and thinks that she sees them for the first time and wonders if these are new maids. The girl with pink hair says that they prepared breakfast in the dining room and the gentleman left at dawn. Anne asks the lady if she is feeling better because she feels like she was not feeling well yesterday. She replies that she seems to be okay. However, the maid claims that she has known the mistress for more than a day and says that in such situations, she usually does not show that something is wrong. So who else, if not, she will notice it. N says that if she is sick, then let her say so, and then asks how she herself cannot know about the state of her body. The main character reminds that she already said that everything is fine. The maid claims that in any case, she definitely needs her. Anne reports that the butler said that she is not allowed to take care of the mistress, and then asks who else could know the mistress better than her. Tatiana asks in surprise whether he said that it is impossible, and the maid asks the mistress to say something to the butler. the main character suggests to start by correcting everything to proper treatment. The butler informs the madam that the head of the house will return in 2 weeks, and during this time, he will serve her in everything. Tatiana says, in surprise, that the war is already over, and then asks where he went. He replies that thanks to the master, the animals do less damage to LeBron. Hearing this, the girl thought that she didn't know much about this person, and then said that it meant that he was often absent. The man explains that he is a very busy person due to his participation in battles, and also in the period when there is no war, he spends most of his time with a squad of mercenaries. The butler says that the lady liked this tea last time, and that is why he specially prepared it today. The man says that this is another kind of black tea from the teak region, and asks if it was to his taste. The lady says that she thinks that it is very difficult to find teak tea. He claims that of course it is his work, and he bought it from the most famous store in Lebanon, and therefore he thinks that the quality can be trusted. The main character asks if he is talking about Loic. He says that Madame said correctly. Tatiana says that it must have been hard for him to go to such a distant place, as she believes that he was swamped with things to do, from preparing for the wedding to various household chores, and even taking care of such minor details. The butler asks what she is saying, and then says that this is all something he should take care of. He also tells the madam that she does not have to worry about anything, and feels comfortable. The young lady thanks him for his concern, and at this time N speaks to the mistress, but the mistress says that she needs to go and do her duties. Tatiana offers to understand her, since the maid has been with her for a long time. The butler says that it is nothing to worry about. Madam reports that many new things have been brought, and they need to be sorted out, and therefore she entrusts this to Anne, since even in the Cartier house, this was her duty. The main character says that here or somewhere, if things are brought, then she trusts her with the responsibility of organizing them, and then asks if that is not the case. At this time the maid understood what Madame wanted, and then said that she listened, and obeyed, and left. The butler looked at the woman in surprise. She said that she was glad that he was doing such a good job with the housework, and then said that she was ashamed to say it, but she knew nothing about housework. The man tells her not to worry, because he will do everything. The lady asks if he himself prepares the captain's clothes. The butler replies that the captain's clothes, like those of the hero of Freya's empire, are sewn for him by a city tailor, and speaking about this mansion as a manager, he puts his whole soul into it. A few days later, the main character saw many boxes and black wolf knights. The lieutenant explains that the captain sent it and said to tell Madam that it was all for her. Owen screams and says that the gentleman said that now the lady is responsible for this. At this time, the girl thought about whether he hadn't gone to catch animals and suggested that they first move everything to the room with the dresses in her bedroom. Tatiana reports that she doesn't know what he sent, but she believes that she should personally figure out what she needs to keep and what she needs to throw away. Hearing this, the guy with red hair asks in surprise who she thinks their captain is. The butler says that he will help, but the guy objects and says that he should not touch her since the madam is responsible for all this, and they will drag it all themselves. The main character thought about what she had learned about the Townsend house over the past few days, that firstly, compared to the scale, everything inside was empty. Secondly, for those who live there, the environment is very cozy. And thirdly, it is very rich. The maid, surprised, tells the mistress that this is all treasure, but the lady tells her to be quiet because no one can hear. Anne says that if she sits only in the room, then everyone will think it's weird. Lady objects and says that up until now, she's been pretending not to care, so she suggests not to worry. The main character understands that she learned that in the Townsend house, it is that Canel is incredibly rich, and she understands that he is richer than all her sisters. The illegitimate son of the Marquis of Targa Freya's war hero, and now her husband, and that's all she knows. The girl thought that she really knew little about this man. Tatiana wonders what he was doing while she was peacefully sleeping in the vice county. However, she understands that she cannot claim that she did not know this. The young lady understands that in the short time that she spent with this man talking and holding hands, spending the night with him, it is difficult to call them an ideal married couple. The main character thinks that he speaks little, but always answers and never says no, and also never forced her to do what she doesn't want and never did what she didn't like. The girl became interested in whether she could be like this with this man and fall fast asleep with him. The maid tells Madam that the chief has returned. Hearing this, she went out to meet him. The captain tells the knights to first feed the horses and have a good rest. Seeing her husband, the main character turned to him. He asked in surprise where she was going when she once went out at such an hour. The young gentleman looked at his dirty hands and said that it was not his red liquid, and there were more monsters than he thought. Tatiana grabs his hand and asks if this is a problem now. The young lady shows the boxes and asks what it is. Then she says that he sent it to her without any explanation, and then asks what he ordered her to do with it. The young gentleman asks in surprise if this is not enough, and at this time she does not understand what they are talking about at all. Kaynell claims that she could have just told him about it, and then says that there was no need to vent her anger because he already understands everything. The young gentleman grabs his wife by the waist and then asks if she is hungry, and also wonders why she is so thin. She asks if he doesn't like something. The captain explains that he sent it so that she could buy whatever she wanted, and then asks why she is still wearing those clothes. The wife asks if her clothes are the problem. He asks if they are not enough for her, and then says that he just doesn't know what people like her wear, and he didn't think anything would be missing. Tatiana asks if he means that he sent her all this so that she could buy dresses and jewelry. He claims that it is all for her. The girl asks where he got all this from and whether it all really belongs to him. He explains that it was buried on his land, and he himself did not know that it would amount to so much. The main character took the red ball and said that she saw such a precious stone. For the first time, he said that it is the heart of the splash. Hearing this, the young lady thought about what it means that it is a dragon's heart, and that this is the very heart of Splash that cannot be bought for money. The young lady claims that this cannot be, and he asks why. The girl says that he must have been deceived, since Plesk is not accessible to anyone except the closest members of the royal family. Tatiana reports that they say that it exists only near the arch and the northernmost part of the Holy Land, and if an ordinary person enters there, he can be cursed. Kaynell explains that it is near the arch, but not in it, and nothing will change if he gets another curse. The main character reports that Splash before dying spews fire and burns his body, and therefore believes that the heart itself cannot be returned. The young gentleman says that it is possible to pull it out before death. She asks in surprise if this means that it is possible after all. The captain says that he can't be fooled, and he won't believe it until he sees it with his own eyes. He claims that whatever it is, he's been collecting gold coins since he started working as a mercenary. The gentleman says that the jewelry and other things were given as a reward, or he took them from pirate ships. She asked then, without any problems, and according to the law, it is all his property. Kaynell says that now it's all hers, and asks what the problem is, and then says that since she's the owner, she's responsible for it, even if she doesn't want it. Tatiana touches his lips with her hands and asks him to be silent for a bit, because she needs to collect her thoughts. He takes her hands and then kisses them tenderly. The young gentleman reports that she has no fever today, and then looks at his hands and realizes that they are dirty and sweaty, and thinks that she is probably disgusted, but does not understand why she does not look at him with contempt. The captain says that he will go and let her rest, but the lady says that he should not leave. The guy asks in surprise why she answers that she is scared, and she doesn't want him to leave her alone with this. Tatiana tells her husband that he probably doesn't know, because she felt that there was no place for her in this mansion, but now she feels at home again. The girl says that after waking up everything will be as if nothing had happened. The next day, the empress tells Larissa that she cannot understand how her daughter could reject the duke's family and join some beast. Her Majesty says that she thought Tatiana was a pretty smart girl, but she realizes that she has a narrow mind, and then asks who is to blame for the fact that she pushes away her own happiness. The empress says that soon they will find Alexei a new wife, and she will bring a girl from a normal family and see who will be in a better position. And therefore she believes that in this case she has no choice but to cry and regret it. Larissa tells the lady that she must take this diamond. She replies that since nothing worked out, she must take it with her. The Viscountess asks why he blames her. If his nephew has a sexual desire, then she claims that it is stupid to come and waste her energy on useless things, and explains that this is why her daughter has not yet become the emperor's wife. Anicia tells her mother that maybe someone will hear it. She asks her daughter if she thinks there are things that can scare her. At this time, the girl thought that this is exactly what their mother, Larissa Lorraine de Courtier, was like. From that day on, Mother greeted guests as if nothing had happened. She held balls because she believed that in such times it was necessary to show that everything was fine. Larissa understood that it was with great difficulty that she raised this family and what suffering she went through, and she understands who will like it if she behaves differently. Larissa says that the Empress came today, and she doesn't understand how someone could say something like that, and then says that this is something new. The woman asks her daughter if she doesn't remember when her father died and how they started to treat them, and thinks that compared to that time, it was a mere trifle. The Viscountess asks if she knows what thoughts come to her mind when she listens to these swindlers, and believes that someday everything they said will come back to them, and it will be a pleasant sight. Mom says that the Empress said that they will regret it, and believes that she is no exception, since she is a noble lady, and will have to regret it with dignity. Larissa doesn't understand how she dared to say such a thing in her house today, and wants every word of hers to pierce her to the bone. Anesia says that she feels like the Marquisate Carrion turns her attention to the Duchy of Atlas, and she speaks of her friend, Tatiana Rebecca. Mom asks in surprise what other friend she is talking to. The daughter explains that she was not her friend from the very beginning, but she thinks that maybe it made sense for Tatiana. The Viscountess says that it is possible that it is because she valued her and never learned to understand people, and that is why she chose that beast because of that one. The daughter asks what to do since the wedding ceremony already took place, and they also say that they received a seal on the marriage certificate from the high priest. Mom says that these ungrateful bishops took her money but never did their job. The girl explains that their Tatiana didn't even have a proper dress for the ceremony, and her mother asks if she wants to help her and insists that she won't go. Anicia says that she is probably so offended because she is a child and has never used things twice. Larissa claims that she is not her daughter once she thought about it and did such an act, and also claims that she is not her daughter because she threw her away and then remembers that she gave her a chance several times, and her younger ignorant sister simply pushed her mother away. Anicia claims that Tatiana is still very young. Mom says that means she should have better understood the consequences of her thoughtless choice. The Viscountess says that love is temporary and marriage is reality, and also wonders how far she can go with a man who doesn't even love her. Larissa suggests talking frankly, and then asks if her father was such a great man. The girl asks why she suddenly started talking about her father. Mom explains that she still liked him very much, and when he died, she was so devastated that tears came to her eyes. The Viscountess says that she wondered if she would die like this, drowning in tears, and explains that she satisfied her hunger with the bread that was left behind, and her tears stopped when she pulled the rest of the blanket to cover herself. Mom explains that this was her life and reality. Canel thought about how he had never given anything to anyone and had never wanted anything. After all, the Townsend estate and that money were enough for him. Miss Hart raised with her own hands a child born to her dear mistress, who had left this mortal world. The woman used the money she had and named the child Townsend, the last name of her late husband. But for Canel, it was all just an illusion, like money. For Miss Hart and him, it was enough money to feed themselves. He considered it greed to have more than one share. The young gentleman understood that even if the highest value in the world that had turned away from him was money, he did not feel the need for it. And only once 3 years ago, he desired great wealth. The young master understood that one way or another, as the name and status of the Black Wolf mercenary grew, many things began to fall into his hands, and there were so many of them that it became difficult to count. The main character asks in surprise if he buried it all in the ground. The guy asks if it's not possible. Tatiana says that this is great and puts the money aside, and then asks what about the rest of the things. And then he says that according to the law, it is said that wealth obtained outside of Freya can belong to a person, but he wonders if it is usually not given to the imperial family. Canel claims that the law is for knights, but not for him, and then asks if she didn't know about it when she got married, and therefore hopes that she didn't expect him to be a knight. Tatiana asks in surprise if she said such a thing. He explains that he is not obliged to be unconditionally loyal like knights, and works exactly for as much as he receives. The main character says that then he should handle it more carefully, because she believes that one cannot be so rude to Plesk's heart. The captain asks how he can pay attention to every little thing, and then explains that he was in a hurry, so he could only bring this, but he thinks that if he digs, there will be more. Hearing this, the girl realized that there was more, and then said that it was impossible to leave everything like that, and believed that he should keep it as it should be, in order to prove that it belongs to him. Canel says that he just doesn't want to. She asks in surprise why he says that he doesn't want his name to remain in this world, and then tells the girl that in any case it's all hers, and therefore she can do whatever she wants. The guy says that she can buy herself clothes or anything else, it doesn't matter, and then says that the houseworkers are also at her disposal. The main character asks if this means that he entrusts everything to her. The young gentleman claims that this is now her home. Tatiana agrees with him and says that she will be responsible for him, and wherever she uses it, let him watch so that he doesn't regret it later. The young gentleman explains that, as he said earlier, these things do not matter to him, because in any case, he did not intend to leave his name or mark on this world. The girl asks her husband if he even remembers her name. He says her name. She asks if he is going to escape responsibility, even though he has already left his name. Tatiana claims that Canel Townsend should first look at himself before shifting responsibility to the lady of the house, and then tells him not to act as if his life is already over and offers to take responsibility. The main character reports that after he gave her his property and name, she asks if he feels calmer, saying that he is not interested in peaceful affairs. The young lady states that she wishes him to properly fulfill the role of her husband, and unless he wants to see her run away with this money. The lieutenant asks the captain in surprise if he has arrived yet, and he asks if they have recovered. The knight says that he thinks it will take a little longer because the suppression of magical beasts, which usually takes more than 2 weeks, was completed in just a week. So everyone was very overworked. At this time, the lieutenant thought that the one who single-handedly slaughtered more than half of the beasts now looks the healthiest, and he reports that as the captain ordered, he will refuse the task of pacifying the beasts of the Celtic mountains. The young gentleman claims that money is good, but believes that now he needs to take care of his body, and a few minutes later, he objects and says that it would be better to agree. At this time, the captain thought that he didn't know why, but he had a reason to earn a lot of money. The Marquis tells the woman that he found out about what she was talking about. Larissa asks if he really has anything. Marquis Auberdine replies that there is no such property, and the bank account was never opened because he has never sat still, and it seems that the house in which he now lives is all that he has. Larissa says she heard that mercenaries earn a lot. He replies that there is no trace of money spent. Mom tells her daughter that it was so obvious, and yet he refused her offer. But she understands what she could expect from a man who rejected the title of Duke given to him by the Crown Prince. The Marquis tells the Viscountess that he nevertheless has high standards, which is why he set his sights on Tatiana. The woman says that even if he wants to look at least one rose, he doesn't have money, so it's impossible, and she believes that he should have realized this in time. The man claims that he is definitely famous, and it is said that the Black Wolf's mercenaries pacify the beasts in the Tiran Mountains every year for free. Larissa says that the more she hears about him, the more she dislikes him. And then she says that it was like that in the Great Temple when she baptized that girl. The monk said that Tatiana is a child who will sit on a mountain of money until she gets tired of it. And the woman says that no matter what happens, she treats her like a precious child. However, the Viscountess believes that she should have realized this when she was taken on as a model for the angel statue for free. Larissa says that she thinks that we can stop finding out about his property because she believes that if we sell the land, there will be no more money from it, since he cannot have any property. The Viscountess reminds him to find out what she said earlier. The Marquise agrees with her and says that it is not so simple because it is an old story, and therefore he will need more people. The lady tells him to stop donating to the Great Temple. The Marquis embraces his wife and asks if she is okay. Anesia says that she does not know what to do now because Tatiana has already married and even received the approval of the temple, and understands that after the quarrel with the empress, the situation has only worsened. The gentleman says that it seemed to him that she was angry, not only for this reason. After all, now that they have officially announced the breakup of relations, Mother has no choice but to leave Tatiana alone. The Marquis claims that nothing can be done in this situation now and asks if this is true, and then says that Mother has not lost her voice even once today, and even laughed slightly. The girl explains that this is why she is even more anxious. And at that time, she thought that her mother had doubled all the humiliations she had received over 20 years, and it was unlikely that she would give in to this. At this time, the main character suggests that in this case they start with sorting. However, she understands that it will take several days to sort everything out, and she would like to see the end of it. The maid tells Madame that she can do so much with it, and she wonders how much jewelry is in there. The main character understands that there is so much that cannot be described in words. A few days later, Anne asks the lady why she is going to the library. The lady replies that she needs to find out the value of these things, and then asks what she thinks people will say if she leaves this for the world to see. Tatiana thinks that probably everyone will say that she is a rich and lucky wife of an illegitimate child. And after that, their eyes will light up to take this money and luck. The girl believes that at first they will be blinded by money, but as soon as the sweet water runs out, they will turn away. After all, the nobles who value their good name more than their lives hate only rich, illegitimate children, and made it so that illegitimate children do not dare to open their mouths. The lady reports that he is a man who is still being pointed at, and therefore believes that he cannot be allowed to cause a fuss. N says that if she cares about him so much, then she wonders why she pretended this morning that she didn't even know him, and he came home after so many days, and then says that the lady doesn't even know that he was standing in front of her room at dawn this morning. Tatiana says that it is enough because she needs to go, and she does not trust anyone except N, and therefore suggests that she stay here and keep an eye on this. The young lady remembered the gentleman's words and thought that he was a man who is not attached to life, but he believed that even the one who married her could not be like that. Canal asks the girl why she is still wearing that dress, and then says that he gave her money. Hearing this, the main character thought that he was talking about the dress again, and didn't understand why it was so important to him, and then asked if he had anything else to say, and thought that since he wasn't answering, she would pretend that nothing had happened and leave. The young gentleman asks if she can say where she is going, and then asks if it is difficult for her to even say that. The lady asks if it was difficult for him to say that he was leaving home for a few days. He didn't know what to answer, and she tells him not to worry, because she wouldn't be as reckless as he was about spending the night away from home. The girl claims that she will not do something as ignorant as this, and then turns around and walks away. At this time, the captain does not understand why she is angry at all, and what upset her so much, and believes that it is still difficult for him to understand this woman. When the main character came to the central library, she was met with surprised glances from the aristocrats. The young lady reads that the Plesk clan of fire-breathing dragons is located at the northernmost point of the continent, and this place is next to the Holy Land of Ark. Before death, they spew fire to destroy themselves, without stopping either skin or bones. As a magical ingredient, only the scarlet heart is used, which burns last. And if it is not extracted quickly, then the fire spreading in an instant, in most cases, turns the person trying to extract the heart into ashes. Tatiana understands that he is engaged in such dangerous affairs, and read that the exact price of the heart of the Plesk cannot be determined because it has never been presented on the market in its entirety. About 23 years ago, the last piece of the heart of the Splash was sold at LeBron's auction with a price of 10 million gold per gram. The young lady thought that he was definitely crazy because he thought that this man should know how many lives he has, and also thought that maybe he just wasn't afraid of death. The main character does not understand why she is so angry, because 3 years ago, that man did not hesitate at all before entering the battle. And since he is a war hero, he has not changed at all now, and therefore he leaves without saying a word. Tatiana understands that he then comes back a few days later and asks why she is angry, and she wonders if there is something that this man desires with all his heart. The young lady believes that the dragon's heart deserves more than just buying him some dresses, and thought that she would show him how to go shopping properly. The saleswoman meets the lady and greets her, and then asks if she will tell her what style of dress she is looking for. The main character thought that she hadn't been there for a long time, and then pointed to the dress that she liked. The saleswoman apologized and said that it was difficult for her to sell her the dress. The girl asks why the woman doesn't know what to answer, and Tatiana asks if the woman said that if she sells her the dress, she will raise her store to the ground. And when the lady left the store, she thought that she had not foreseen this, and believed that if mother could bribe a government agency, then a clothing store was worth nothing to her. Tatiana says that if this is the reason, then she understands, and the woman apologizes and explains that in the end, this dress was chosen by another customer. At this time, the girl from the fitting room screams, insisting that she told them to bring her clothes, and asks why she is rummaging around there, and also wonders if she dares to make her wait. When the lady saw Mrs. Tatiana, she said that she didn't think she would meet her. Alexei asks Natalia what she is doing there, and when he saw the main character, he was surprised and asked how she ended up there. Tatiana says that she is surprised to see His Excellency the Duke in such a place. Hearing this, he cries out and asks what she called him. The young lady thought that he was also drunk, and then asked what she should call him, and claimed that not even a year had passed since she ran into him at Duke Atlas. Natalia tells the Duke to calm down, because she thinks that he embarrassed Madame Townsend, because she thinks that it must have hurt her pride to meet His Excellency the Duke in this way. Hearing this, the main character asks what she is talking about, and the lady with pink hair explains that this is usually what happens when you meet your ex-fiancé in this way. Natalia says that it is suspicious where one could buy such a cheap dress. The lady replies that she thinks it is hundreds of times better than her naked body that she constantly sees, and thinks that her self-esteem turned out to be thinner than she thought. At this time, the saleswoman approaches her and asks her to leave. Tatiana says that this level of designer is filtering out customers and believes that at this rate they will close, and then she leaves. Alexei screams and says to detain that girl, but Natalia holds his hand and says that there is no need to do this because he saw how she treated her. However, the Duke pushed Natalia and ran after the main character. He asks the tiara to stop, and when she goes outside, the girl realizes that this attracts a lot of attention. Tatiana turns to him and reminds him that she told him not to call her by that nickname anymore. He asks if that's all she wants to say now, and also wonders if she'll leave him like that. The young lady says that she must go to her home, and also suggests that the Duke should also go from there. He screams and explains that this is a misunderstanding, and Natalia is just a temporary replacement for her. The main character says that it is disgusting because he talks about a replacement and a misunderstanding, and then says that even on her birthday, it was not so offensive, and then asks how much longer Duke Atlas will fall to the very bottom. Tatiana says that she is already a married woman, and then claims that he should now remember that this insult is not only for her alone. Alexei asks if she did well to give her body to that beast, and also wonders if there is something so wonderful in it that she abandoned her family and threw away her honor. The Duke asks if she will tell him how and how well he treated her, so that she immediately joined him. The young lady tells him to shut his mouth, and then asks if he thinks she wanted to listen to his chatter. The main character says that he seems interested in how great her husband is, and then says that he can't compare to a man like him, with whom she is afraid to hear something disgusting at every meeting. Alexei grabs the girl by the hand, and she screams and asks what he is doing. He asks if she is going to threaten him with her husband. The Duke tells her not to make him laugh because he thinks her husband is worthless, and then asks why she doesn't invite her commoner husband. Suddenly, the hooded man grabbed Alexei and said that she didn't have to call him. Canel says that if his wife promised him something, he will fulfill it for her. The Duke turns to Tiara and asks her to tell him to let him go. The captain asks the Duke how he dares to pronounce her name so casually. Alexei turns to the man and calls him a bastard, and then asks if he knows who he is. Canel wrings his hands harder and asks if he needs to know. The young lady turns to him and asks him to stop. Alexei says that he simply will not leave this, and then says that he is a duke, and screaming says that as soon as the sun rises tomorrow, he will go to the imperial palace and ask to be punished for everything that happened today. Canel says that he does not listen to anyone's orders. Alexei was surprised to hear this. The captain says that he has already asked for a duke who thinks he is better than others. Instead, he explains that instead of the position of duke, he received immunity from the nobility, and then he tells the duke that there will be no next time. At this moment, the main character turns around and leaves, and her husband follows her. He asks Tatiana where she is going, and also wonders if her legs hurt because she is walking quickly. The captain wonders why she didn't buy clothes. She asks if he was following her from the beginning, and if he was afraid that she would really run away. The man explains that it is the husband's responsibility to do everything right if he does not want her to leave the house, and then says that he cannot allow this. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is saying, and asks if it is the husband's duty to follow his wife around. Tatiana says it wouldn't be better to go to the clothing store after her because there were a lot of dresses there that he talks about so much. He replies that he was afraid that it would be hard for her if he was nearby. The girl asks how it can be hard to buy clothes and walk down the street. The young gentleman explains that he does not know what a husband's duties are and therefore asks to tell him if he needs to bring more money. Tatiana asks if he is a fool. Canel says that he does not know what she wants from him. The young lady explains that they are married and live in the same house and do not tell each other where they are going or where they are coming from, and they do not spend the night together and did not even spend their first wedding night. The main character reminds that he himself said that he wants her body, and then asks why he is surprised, and asks if it is possible since she is constantly sick and does not often leave the room, and therefore thinks that she is weak. Hearing these words, the girl hugs him and kisses him, and after the kiss, she asks if it is now clear that her fever has subsided. The guy kissed the girl again and she thought that since he was hugging her with both arms, she felt that he desired her. When the young couple came home, they immediately went to the bedroom, and the young gentleman kisses the girl and says that he can't wait any longer. The next morning, Tatiana thought that she was ashamed, but she saw that her husband was not in bed. The girl thinks that he is such a busy man and must have gone off to distant lands to tame animals again without telling her anything. She wanted him to be there on a day like today, but she thinks that she can only dream about it. The main character understands that their relationship was clearly delineated from the very beginning, and one way or another, they finally spent their first wedding night. The young lady doesn't understand how he endured all this time. The maid comes into the room and asks Madame if she is awake, because she wants to clean the room. The mistress says that she can start cleaning. When the lady came out of her room, she saw Canel and asked in surprise if he was there. The young gentleman asks if he can be there. She explains that this is not what she meant, and she does not understand why tears suddenly appeared in her eyes. The girl thought that she needed this man so much. Canel then asks why, and at that time she thought that all he can ask is the word why, and it infuriates her. The gentleman says that he will be a little late today, but will not spend the night outside the house. The young lady grabs him by the sleeve and asks why he is telling her this. He explains that she herself said that if you go somewhere you must tell her. Tatiana says that she is a little surprised because she didn't think that he would listen to her. She asks him to wait. Canel claims that she has reasons, and if she will properly perform the duties of the housewife, then he should also properly perform the duties of a husband. The main character asks if they will have breakfast together. She explains that she hasn't eaten yet and thinks that maybe he hasn't either, and then says that eating together is the duty of a husband and wife. The lady says that if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. However, he agreed. Sitting at the table, the girl thought that he had perfect manners, even though he was not a nobleman. The young gentleman explains that this is strange to him because he is not used to this and knows that in her eyes he looks inferior. Hearing this, Tatiana objects and explains that this is not so because she believes that he is doing everything right, and then claims that for his body type, he should eat so much. The captain explains that he simply doesn't even know when he will be able to eat again. Hearing this, the girl was surprised, and he says that there is nothing special about it since it has always been like this. The lady says that he needs to eat well to gain strength, and she should start doing everything more actively. The young gentleman asks her in surprise what she is talking about. The main character explains that she is talking about the duties of the mistress of the house, since he has delegated all powers to her, and therefore believes that from now on, a lot needs to be done. Canel asks if there is a lot of work in this house, or if she doesn't like it. She asks if that's the case, if he is happy with the place at the moment. The captain says he thinks they'll have to go back to town because she didn't even buy any dresses or jewelry yesterday. She asks if he thinks the lady of the house has nothing better to do. The young gentleman wonders what else is there then. And at that time she thought that she understood very well what image of a noble mistress of the house this man imagines in his head. Canel claims that she cannot personally do household chores because she believes that the butler and servants should do this. Hearing this, Tatiana does not understand what she should do. He suggests thinking about things that are really necessary while she rests. The girl says that she will ask if he is against her doing something in this house. He claims that he did, and she suggests that he just quietly watch. The girl says that the servants pretend that they know nothing, even when they see that the master and his wife are standing in the same place. The butler says he didn't know they were there and apologizes for being late. The lady says it's okay because she thinks he must have been busy. The man explains that new curtains were hung on the second floor, and since this fabric was brought from Lois, it is ideal for sheltering from the midday sun. He believes that Madame will definitely like it. The lady asks if she can have the tea made like last time, and when Tatiana drank tea, she thought about what she knew. The butler turned to her and said that if she needed anything else, let her say so. The main character says that she is glad that the butler is here, but she is only angry at this world that deceives such a devoted person. The lady reminds him that he said that the tea leaves were bought by him personally from a Brahmin shop and asks if this is true. The man says that this is tea grown in teak, but the lady claims that this cannot be and explains that if the teak farm really did send such tea leaves, then it cannot be that the person responsible for this place was still alive. Cartier has teak plantations and then asks if the teak land isn't too vast. The lady agrees with him and claims that all these lands belong to her mother and therefore suggests that the Brahmin's shops should not make excuses because it belongs to her second sister. Upon hearing this, the man apologized and said that he thought he had made a mistake and explained that once he was hired in Townsend, he had to take care of many things, and only this time he asked for generosity. She says that the second time will be difficult, and then asks if he made curtains from Lois fabric. Hearing this, the man thought that the documents were perfectly embellished, and then said that the lady was right because they were brought from Port Tate. Butler says she can contact the port to check the shipping, and the export and import certificates are also saved so she can verify for herself. Tatiana says that this is strange because Louis does not supply textiles to other countries between December and March in accordance with national legislation. The young lady says that if you sell such a precious thing all year round, it will not be considered precious, and if new goods are brought in at this time, then one of two things: contraband, or a person who is lying big time. Madame reports that over the past 15 days, she has seen enough of the furniture dishes and housekeeping, and she admits that he has made an effort in his own way. The butler says that the lady has misunderstood everything. Hearing this, the young gentleman stood up, but the girl gave him a sign to calm down. Tatiana asks how he did it, so that only expensive things were mistaken for genuine, and then says that if you think about it, that cup is genuine product, embroxen, and it's a great pattern to make it. The lady claims that this is the same embroxen that will never break, and then she throws a crumb on the floor, and it breaks, and the tea stains her dress. The young lady says that it looks like this dress is not worth its price, and the brave butler shows her a fake receipt with a large amount of money. The main character turns to In and asks him to bring it to her. She takes the documents and says that she will see how far he has spread his paws. The butler asks if she didn't care about it. Madame asks without sitting down if she would calmly let him look around there. Tatiana reports that he cheated them out of over 100 million gold. The man reports that he had said before that the mansion was almost empty, so a lot needed to be repaired. The butler explains that since all the servants were recently hired, the expenses were inevitably high, since he believes that he can at least select people well, which is why so many have gathered. The main character claims that she is not sure about good servants, but it seems that he is able to recognize a good master. And then she turns to Kainelu and asks if he knows how much it costs to live there for 1 month. The young gentleman replies that he certainly doesn't know, and the lady suggests looking at how good or convenient the master is. She says that if the servants are good, they should watch every move of the masters. Tatiana reports that when the owners stand like this in the middle of the house, they should not just look at each other, but say at least something once they have their tongue in their mouth because her husband has already overpaid them. The main character says that she is not going to leave servants in her house who do not recognize their masters, and then says that from this day on everyone is fired. The girl with pink hair says that it is unfair and asks Madam to give her another chance. The lady tells her to ask her mother for a chance, and at that time she thought that this is her mother's character, because it cannot be that she would not introduce her eyes and ears into this house. Hearing this, the girl asks in surprise how she knows this. The lady replies that even if she remembered her preference, she is too well informed about them. Tatiana turns to the girl with blue hair, and she says anxiously that it is not her, since the mistress knows that she is only cleaning the bedroom. The main character says that she said it right, and then says that that's why she's telling everything she saw. And she says that they finally had a normal wedding night, and she checked it out personally, and everything was much hotter than it seemed. At this time, the young lady thought that if she had continued like this with Canel, the marriage would have been declared invalid, and she would have subjugated him to her will by any means necessary. Tatiana now just hopes that those spies will do their job well, and she will never fulfill her mother's will. The lady turns to the gentleman and says that she needs to go and buy some dresses, because as he sees, she was a little busy. He asks if he will finish off the butler, and she wonders why such extremes. The main character says that there is still something that needs to be settled, and therefore suggests leaving the butler alone, since she believes that there are mercenaries anyway, and therefore he will not be able to escape. Tatiana turns to her husband and says that she wanted to tell him something. He asks in surprise, what is the matter and what is the problem? At this time, the main character does not understand why this man is behaving this way, and then explains that she did not know that yesterday she would act like this with the Duke, because Atlas knows that he is a man who will never admit his mistakes. The young gentleman asks if this is all. Having heard this, the girl was surprised, and he does not understand why he should listen about another man, and turns around and leaves. The young lady followed him and said that she was glad that he had received such powers from His Highness the Crown Prince. He thought that now he could receive them. The girl heard the knight calling the captain. She tells him to go, because Owen is waiting for him there, and quite a lot of time has passed since his arrival. Canel asks his wife what she will do after she kicks him out. She looks at her husband in surprise, and he says that if she leaves, then only she will remain in this house. The main character says that she can stay alone because she has N with her. He objects and says that there is no one to help her except the maid. And the lady claims that they were not there from the very beginning, and says that first of all, she will choose a new butler. The young gentleman asks what kind of person she is looking for. She answers that someone who will sincerely dedicate his body and soul to this house, but she assumes that he may be a little quick at work, but strong-willed and unwavering in the face of money. The young lady says that it would be better if he was quick in calculations and able to influence his subordinates, and she also thinks that it would be good if he was strong if possible, since there are many things to do. Canel asks if that's enough. She says it's not easy to hire a new person, and she will tread carefully for the sake of her schedule and plans. The husband asks what kind of daily routine she is talking about, and also asks if she has one. Tatiana says that he should go to work already. At this time, Owen opens the door and screams, asking the captain if he has really finished his breakfast and why he is not coming out, and then says that Gerald is urgently looking for him. The young gentleman says that there is one suitable frame. Hearing this, the knight asks in surprise what he is talking about. At this time, the captain thought that Tatiana Cartier was busy with business, and this was incredible for him, because he only thought and wished that she would live as before. Canel always thought that it was better for her to be confident as a luxurious and arrogant queen, and he did not know what the role of a hostess was, and he did not want his wife to dry up next to him like dying plants. The guy understands that she is different from his expectations, and even if she is different, he wonders if it is too much. He thinks that she is much more arrogant than he remembers, but at the same time, she is a sincere and smiling woman, and he thought that today they can have dinner together. The man understands that if he doesn't keep his promise, she will get angry again. The lieutenant asks the captain if he has arrived, and the master asks what happened. Gerald explains that he sent a knight to meet him, but he is nowhere to be seen. The gentleman says that there is no point in looking for him, because now he will not come there, and from now on, he works in another place. Hearing this, the lieutenant thought that the bastard continued to babble nasty things with his tongue, and therefore thought that the captain had finally gotten rid of him, and he did not understand where he got such a hot temperament from, and thought that he must have been hired because he had the qualities of a captain. Gerald asks if he said where he was going, and then says that he wants to see him. The captain objects and says no, and then says that if he suddenly comes back, he should kill him right there. The lieutenant heard this and was surprised and even a little scared, and the captain asked why he was looking for him. He said that the gentleman had a guest. His Highness Crown Prince Rainier says he came unannounced. Rainier's mother died soon after his birth, and his father the Emperor did not live to see his son reach adulthood. Despite his precarious position, he wanted to diligently fulfill his duties as Crown Prince. From a young age, the boy had been on the battlefield and had been on death's door several times. At that time, the lieutenant thought about what might have happened if their captain had not gone to Catman a few years ago and saved him. Gerald believes that he has a good relationship, and it's all because they both were on the battlefield from a young age. The captain asks the prince what brought him here. He replies that the master did not meet him. His Majesty says that he has not changed, and then asks if the wedding went well. He replies that everything is as he wanted. The prince says he doesn't know how to express his congratulations because he himself has never been married, and then asks if she is a noble lady. The man replies that it looks like it. Rainier says that there are rumors that she is also a beauty, and then says that if he had known, he would have prepared a gift in advance. Hearing this, the lieutenant thought that if it were someone else in his place, he would have long ago received the title granted by His Highness. Since he believes that the Crown Prince himself is extending his hand, it would be problematic to suddenly refuse him. Gerald thinks that he acts as if he doesn't care and doesn't understand what the hell possessed the captain to jump into the arms of death to save the Crown Prince. Kainel asks His Highness if he can ask him for a favor. The prince says he will do everything in his power and let him just say the word. And the captain asks to give him immunity from the nobility. Hearing this, prince thought that he is not asking to make him a nobleman, but instead, on the contrary, asked to fence him off from them. And he thinks that this is not easy. But since the captain is a hero of the empire, which greatly simplifies the task, the prince does not understand why he needs this, and then says that he would prefer to receive a title. Kainel objects and says that this is enough. His Highness says that for his exploits he should be given more, and believes that since many in the Senate owe him their lives, it will not be so difficult. The captain thanks the prince, and he says that he was obliged to do this for him, and therefore suggests that he save his real request, and then asks if the Crown Prince should not thank the one who saved his life. The young master says it is his duty. Rainier tells him that 3 years ago he traveled a long way to Catman to save him, and then asks if he remembers the old woman who was imprisoned with him in the ice cave. Kainel replies that he doesn't remember because there were more than 1 or 2 people there. The prince says that he knew he would say that, and reports that she said that she would definitely return the favor to him, and he heard that this woman recently came to Lebron to look for him. The captain says he doesn't care because he has no reason to meet her. The prince says he thought so, and then says that since he's come all this way, he asks why they don't have dinner together. Kainel apologizes and explains that he had already promised to have dinner with someone else, and His Majesty asks who he promised, and then says that it was impolite of him to suddenly invite him to have dinner with him. At this time, the guy with red hair asks how they can do this to him, and also wonders what he did to them, because he does not understand how they could hit him in the back like that, because he thinks that he is just standing there and has nowhere else to go. Owen screams and says that he won't do it for the sake of a pretty face, and the main character says that she will agree with him and explains that she says this when she doesn't want to involve anyone. Tatiana says that she doesn't like it either, but since that's how it turned out, she asks why they shouldn't treat each other with respect. The guy looked at her in surprise, and she said that he could address her as Madam, and she would respond if he called her that. Owen screams and asks why he even has to be in that place, and also wonders if he did something wrong, and then states that he is not the person who deserves to be there. The guy reminds that the lady said that she doesn't like him, and suggests simply telling the captain this and sending him back to the mercenaries. The main character asks why she does this. Hearing this, the guy was surprised, and he became curious about what the witch was saying. Tatiana says that she really likes Owen. He says in surprise that she herself said that she doesn't like him. And the lady says that she doesn't like the rude treatment and thinks that he is okay with his butler skills, especially in this house. The lady says that at first she actually wondered why Kanel did this, but after taking a closer look, she realized that he was strong and smart. The guy screams and asks if he is strong because he carried a couple of boxes, and then says that it was actually quite hard. The lady says that he is not interested in money and believes that of course there is something to work on, but since he is just a beginner, he has something to strive for. Owen asks who said that he was going to strive, and then says that it could have an effect on the captain, but he will not fall for it because he believes that this man has pride. The knight asks if she knows how much he has suffered, and then says that she is only laughing at him. Tatiana asks, in surprise, who she was laughing at. He says the captain, of course, and then he says that no one in the world has suffered as much as their captain, and believes that there is no human treatment, and he claims that he was never lazy in doing his hardest job. Owen says that Miss Hart must be just pretending that she didn't know about it, but he believes that he always followed through, even when he was too tired to move. The main character asks who Miss Hart is. He explains that she is the nanny who took care of the captain, and believes that he did not even tell Madame that. The knight says that it must have been hard for him if he wandered the battlefields where no proud aristocrat had ever set foot. And he thinks that ignorant people talk about the captain as a hero or even a god. After all, if they had been there for even a minute, they would not have talked like that. The guy says that the messengers are also gods, and then asks why only their captain is called, that he claims that this does not mean that he is omniscient and omnipotent like a god, but the fact that he is still alive is a miracle of God. Owen reports that their captain lived in such hell, not sparing his own life, and believes that if he had not been so determined, he would have died 100,000 times. And then he says that the nobles ignore this and trample him. Tatiana asks if he, a hero who returned from war, is being treated so badly again. The guy says, what difference does it make? How noble he was, what kind of family he is from, since he believes that their captain is suffering. But he doesn't understand why this woman looks so touched. Owen reports that all this money was earned with the blood and sweat of their captain, and there is not a single gold coin that he got for nothing, and then reports that in any case he is leaving. The lady asks where he is going. He replies that he is going to the mercenaries, and then says that he has already told them how hard it is for their captain. The main character claims that he must finish what she asked, and then reminds him that she asked him to put everything there and count it. The guy asks what the lady will do if he refuses, and then he says that he doesn't need the money and it doesn't scare him. The lady asks her husband too. Then she says she thinks the guy is afraid of him. Owen claims it's a cheap trick and then asks if she'll tell the captain. The knight says that it is clear from her eyes that she is not a very honest person, and she says that therefore it turns out that it will not be shameful to do so. At this time, the guy thought that this lady is a real witch's spawn. Owen agrees, and then explains that he is not doing this because he is afraid of the captain. The girl says that she knows and thinks that he is more afraid of not being near him, and then says that if he is rude to her, even once this fear will become reality. The guy asks the lady what she told him to do, and then explains that he didn't say he refused, because he just wanted to take a little break. Tatiana says that today is his first day and therefore suggests that he have a good rest after work. N asks in surprise how he can be so rude, and the main character claims that at least Owen tells her everything to her face. The maid asks why she should listen to this. The lady explains because others will not say it the way her mother did. And then she says that thanks to her mother, they lived well, and that is why she wants to honor her memory. The maid says that she is still happy because she was worried that she would just give up everything. And then she claims that she can't imagine how worried she was, and thinks that they arranged everything there quite well, because she thinks that the master was simply hiding his treasures and did nothing with them. N says that it's as if he has no desires. After all, she thought that the lady would be so tired that she would hate all society and money in the world. The main character explains that thanks to this experience, she will be able to think clearly and believes that the most reliable thing in the world is the gold in her hands. The maid asks why she kept silent all this time. She replies that it is necessary to use all its value wisely, so that not a single gold piece is wasted, since she understands that all these riches were obtained at the cost of her husband's life. Tatiana asks her husband if he has returned. At this time, the young gentleman thought that no matter what he said, this scoundrel would not listen to him anyway. Owen suddenly opened the door and tells the captain that he is very today. But the main character interrupts him and says that he helped well today and asks the guy if it is true. He looked at the lady with confusion. Tatiana tells her husband that she wants to tell him something important, but the guy screams and says that he works as she told him, and then explains that he finished counting and put all the boxes away and asks why she starts again. Owen tells Madame that she is in too much of a hurry and then says that he has gone back to work. The young lady asks her husband if he saw it and then says that Owen did a good job. At this time, he thinks that his wife quickly tamed this guy since it took him 3 years. Kanel asks her in surprise if she had any experience in breeding wild animals. She replies that she has no experience because she does not particularly like them. The girl says that her brother-in-law once brought her a tiger cub and a lion cub, but she immediately sent them back to where they came from because she believes that animals are best off in their natural habitat. The young lady claims that people should live like people and come home on time and have a hearty dinner. At this time, the guy thought that as long as she was happy, there nothing else mattered. Tatiana says that she has prepared something to eat, and he asks where she is rushing to, because he hasn't washed himself yet. The young gentleman sees his wife's surprised face, and then explains that it's not what she thought, because he simply hasn't had time to wash himself, and thinks that it will be unpleasant for her. The girl says that she also did not take a bath, and then hugs him, and asks if he is also uncomfortable. The guy replies that not at all. The main character says that she is glad that he said that. The young woman thought that perhaps it would be easier with him than she thought, and said that if he had any questions for her, he could ask. Kanel asks if he can ask anything, and then says that if she doesn't want to, she doesn't have to answer. The captain asks if she really didn't keep wild animals, and suggests she think about it carefully, since he is sure that it happened. He says that with people like Owen, one shouldn't act so carefree. After all, she was the only one who was able to persuade him to take the position of butler. The young lady asks him why he is angry. The guy replies that it is because she is not angry, and then says that his wife is not acting like usual and thinks that this makes him uneasy. The girl replies that it is because nothing will change. Kanel asks if she should just leave it like that. She explains that if she continues, she will no longer see what happened to her mother. The young gentleman claims that after all, Owen is not an easy guy, and you never know what he has in mind, and also claims that she does not know men. The main character asks if he knows her. He answers that he does to some extent, and she asks how well, and then he kisses his wife. At this time, Owen was watching them, and he would never have thought that the captain would let his leash go so easily, because he believes that a woman's face is not everything. The next day, the red-haired guy asks the master why he hired him as a butler. He claims that all he knows is how to use a sword, and in this place, he doesn't have to do that. The guy screams and explains that he is not the only one who noticed this, and asks if the problem is that the lady simply does not like him. Owen asks if he wants to drive him completely crazy, and then tells the captain that a woman's pretty face isn't everything. Kanel claims that this is why he is the most suitable person. Hearing this, the guy thought that he chose him because he does not get along with this lady, and the guy says that he hasn't met such people yet and then asks what if he suddenly changes his mind. Tatiana asks if he packed everything. The red-haired guy was surprised when he saw the lady, and she asks if they talked about something interesting. The captain replies that nothing special, and at that time, he thought that the knight's face changed when he saw her. I think he is hopeless. Sitting in the carriage, the girl thought that he did not want to go with her. The maid turns to Madame and says that her cloak has come undone, and then ties it up and asks what if she catches a cold. N says that the lady gets seriously ill every year and thinks that she won't even have time to see a doctor. Tatiana claims that it does not depend only on her. The maid says that it is all because the mistress is very fragile and believes that it is enough for her to fall once to spend several days in bed. N remembers that they were always worried about her. Lady says that everything is fine and thinks that she has nothing to worry about since they have a lot of work today, and now she needs to go to the bank. Hearing this, the husband asks why. She explains that since he is not going, she will have to, and then claims that he cannot keep all this money at home. Kanel says that she doesn't have to worry about them being stolen because she believes that there is no safer place than her own room. Tatiana claims that the money should be kept in the bank. He agrees with her and then asks why now, because he thinks it's too early. The main character agrees with him and says that it is true, and then says that Owen counts money much faster than she thought, and says that she thinks she will leave him as their butler for the rest of her life. Hearing this, the gentleman thought that she had decided to take him seriously. The lady says that now is the best time to make a deposit because starting this week, all banks in Lebanon keep track of their clients and deposits. Banks distribute families according to the balance of funds in their accounts in order to invite the most profitable clients to the banquet of the Association of Banks. The husband asks if they pay interest. The girl explains that this is always a bonus for candies given by banks to attract clients. And then she says that what is really important is the status and creditworthiness of families, and this is the biggest benefit that nobility can get from cooperation with the bank. No matter how much a family has invested, they will always have cash to borrow money and even pay interest to loan sharks. The main character reports that every year at this time she puts only 50 gold pieces into her account, and an invitation to the banquet is in their pocket. The young lady says that they believe that money is the best thing in the world, and therefore it is a kind of family calling card. The girl thought that she was born and raised in the world of money, the head of which was her mother, Larissa Laurent de Cartier, a VIP and queen of money in 3 of the largest banks. Cartier family welcomes bankers. For 10 years, it has never given up its leadership in banking reserves to anyone. The lady understands that in second place is her sister Regina, who made a fortune on her divorce. And like them all, the other members of the family are also among the first on the list. The maid says that if you think about it, Regina once mentioned that she wanted to combine the family assets and take first place with their help, but in the end, she never did it. Tatiana says, yes, even if she gathers 4 of the richest people, she won't be able to get around them. And she believes that even if she divorces her mother 100 times, she won't be able to compare. The girl understands that her mother's gold reserves in 3 large banks make up more than 20% of all deposits in Freya, and she believes that this is only a part, since this man will do everything for the sake of leadership. Kanel asks if she wants to bypass her mother like that. She asks if the child is his, and then explains that it is purely symbolic because she understands that from now on, the Townsend family will not be valued at all. Tatiana says that she doesn't care if he laughs, but now it will decide who is allowed to do so. And she says that if they don't bow their heads before the Townsend family, who defended the empire, then she will make them lower their heads and bury their noses in the newspapers while reading their deposit. At this time, the main character does not understand how they dare, because no matter what her name is, she is part of this family. She looked at her husband and thought that perhaps he was offended by the mention of family. The lady says that at the moment she is only thinking about receiving the invitation, and then asks if he is against it. The gentleman asks if this is enough to fulfill what was said, or if more is needed. He offers to say how much is needed. Hearing this, the lady became interested in how much he had buried. The gentleman explains that he is the owner of lands in all the conquered territories and left many things there when he returned, and then says that if you look, you can find even more mines. Canel claims that if it is not enough, he will join the expedition immediately. The wife screams and says that it is enough, and then explains that she simply does not want to mislead him. Tatiana explains that she is afraid that he thought that for her happiness, she should have everything, but at the same time she remains reasonable. He asks in surprise why not, and also wonders if she is really Tatiana Cartier. The young gentleman says that it is certain that she is now Tatiana Townsend. The maid looked out the window in surprise and asked the miss if she was really going to. The lady replied that this was the Royal Standard. LeBron's Hart Tower is the residence of the Royal Standard Board, and at the same time the place where the association banquet is held. It is a symbol of the entire financial district, where the land alone is worth over $1 trillion. It is also known that Viscountess Cartier had her sights set on this place for a long time, but could not get it, and all because the owner of the building and part-time architect, the Marquise Loin, was not flexible on the price. The architect is over 80 years old, and 10 years ago, he lost his wife and has no heirs, so he rarely goes out. In other words, the queen was not necessary to him, but rather a hindrance. The last fossil of man in the capital was considered by Viscountess Cartier, like Empress Charlize, to be a simple game of vanity. The girl remembers that her mother asked how much longer this old man would be stubborn, because she thought it would be better to blow up this place than sell it to this upstart. The Viscountess continued to insist on buying the building, but the Marquis said he would not sell it, even if he was going to die. He said he would rather demolish the building with his own hands than watch the tower fall in front of this woman. The Marquis lives on the top floor of the tower and never goes out and sends all visitors away one by one. Like a landmark, the tower rises in the very center of the capital's main street. On its ground floor is the main institution of the Royal Standard. The reason for this location, despite the huge rent, is its symbolic meaning. The main character believes that since she decided to do this, she needs to do everything right. And wherever this bank is located, the association's banquet is taking place in this building. Tatiana asks to wait for her in the carriage, and her husband asks why. She explains that if he goes, he will stand out a lot, because she believes that today's goal is not to brag, but only to make a contribution. And she claims that it won't hurt if rumors spread slowly. Canel says that it is not that simple, because he thinks that not all people are kind and forgiving, and therefore thinks that he will probably have to come to terms with it. Lady says that it is not yet time for him to appear in public. Tatiana says that he will see when she returns that the first person will already bow his head before him. The gentleman tells Miss Townsend that he is sorry. She asks if this is the royal standard for greeting clients, and then says that it looks like he is not going to let her in. The main character understands that such behavior is the president of the bank, whom she has known since childhood, and then says that she is meeting her mother in this place, and if she is not accepted, she will take all her deposits. The man says that this information is confidential. Tatiana says that she recommended him for this position, and therefore believes that he owes her. The lady says that there are only a few months left before the election of the president of the National Bank, but she believes that unlike the position of the president of the Royal Standard Institution, the corporation, the main character asks if the shareholders will be calm if it becomes known that he is kicking out potential clients. The gentleman says that under normal circumstances, she may be right, but he thinks that if the client wants to take out a loan, he may not let them in. And then he asks if she came to take out a loan. The head of the bank says that as far as she knows, the requirements for lending in their bank are quite strict, and then explains that you need to have a good credit history or collateral. Tatiana reports that there was a misunderstanding because she came to invest money. The man says that this is the main institution of the royal standard and believes that it is impossible to make a deposit of less than $1,000,000 gold. The gentleman says that there is another branch on the outskirts, an hour's drive from here, and asks if she would like to go there instead, since he can help her with a deposit, since he has connections there. The lady says that she will not forget their mercy, and then turns around and leaves. The man says that if she comes back, let them throw her out of there, and then says that if she even steps on the threshold, she will have problems. Tatiana told Owen to take 2 boxes and follow her, but at the door, she was met by a security guard who said there was a problem. She told him not to worry because she was not going to the bank. The lady asks if they have rented the entire royal standard. The guard says it is on the top floor, but she interrupts him and thanks him for his kindness, and then says she knows where she is going. The red-haired guy asks the lady if she didn't come to spend all that money. She says, of course, that's what they're here for, and then says they're going to a better place than the bank. The guy asks in surprise if she wants to go upstairs. The man asks if she is Cartier's daughter, who has only money and is the one who was kicked out. Tatiana tells the Marquise that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and then thanks him for accepting her without an invitation. He asks if many people come to him by invitation. The man asks what brought the unfortunate lady here, and then says that he has heard rumors about her loud wedding. He says that even in such a place, you can find out about what is happening from the newspapers. The Marquis says that since she has come all this way, he will treat her to a cup of tea. At this time, the girl looked at the room and thought that it was better than she imagined. The man says that such a view cannot be seen for any amount of money, and then asks if she agrees. The lady looks out the window and agrees with him. The Marquis asks how much the young lady wants to offer, and suggests not to say that she intended to get this place for free, and says that her mother did not spare money for this. The gentleman asks what her purpose in buying the tower is, and also wonders if it is a blood feud between a mother and her daughter. She says that it seems that the Marquise reads the tabloids, as well as the rest of the news. Tatiana says that in that case, she would recommend him a morning LeBron. However, she believes that the author of the articles is not very motivated, so he publishes information that only vaguely resembles the truth. The gentleman claims that he is not going to sell the building anyway, and then says that at least he has already mentioned the price, which makes him laugh. He asks if she should not hang her head and curse quietly like her mother. The Marquis suggests returning to their conversation, and then says that since she is already here, he will let her look around before he leaves. The young lady informs him that she has not yet presented him with her terms. He asks if she has heard him, and then informs her that the tower is not for sale. The gentleman says that this tower holds the soul of the Marquis Rohan, and his late wife loved this place more than anything in the world, and then asks how he should not protect this place. Tatiana says that it looks like he really put a lot of effort into it, and then says that if you look at these canvases, the patterns and decorations, there is nothing superfluous in them, and she thinks that his wife must have been well versed in architecture and interior design. The man says that it was she who asked him to build this place, and suggests that they end it there because they don't want to annoy each other over the impossible. The main character says that she does not lose hope. He asks in surprise if she has not heard this from her mother, and then says that even if she offers him millions, but the girl interrupts him and says that she will give him 100 million here and now in gold. The Marquis says that he was wondering if she was different from her mother, but he saw nothing, and then says that it is not about money because he believes that this place contains everything that is connected with his wife. The girl continues that this is why he is trying to save this place. Tatiana explains that she says this because it seemed to her that he wants to leave everything there as is in the same form. The main character says that he learned from the newspapers that her husband is Cainel Townsend Marquez, says he's a war hero, and he read that Canel did a lot for their country. Then he asks what that has to do with him. The young lady says that of all the people who can afford to buy this tower, he is the only one who can protect and preserve this place. She explains that they do not intend to demolish or redevelop this building for selfish purposes, but only want to preserve it in its original form. The lady claims that even if she collected all the gossip from the newspapers he read, she would not be able to explain her husband's indifference. After all, she believes that the noisy world of frivolous society is what he despises most in the world. At this time, the main character thought that the Marquise had no heirs, so if he did not arrange everything in advance, his relatives would tear all his property apart, like hyenas in an instant. She did not think that such a perceptive person did not know this. Tatiana suggests that he think about it carefully, and then asks if there could be another such person in Lebrun, corrupted by money and power. The Marquise asks if he has enough money and power. She replies that this is why he is able to protect this place. The lady says that generation after generation for a long time, but he interrupts her and says that he has heard enough about the merits of his husband, and then asks what she can do, since she believes that it was she who came to him and must present conditions that will interest him. Tatiana says that she will visit him more often, and she can come like on this day and drink wonderful tea with him, and they will talk to him about this and that and about this tower. She says that whether he intends to sell it or not, but the tower needs repairs. The lady says that when she arrived, she had already noticed several things that needed to be corrected. He explains that this is a chronic disease of Berg architecture that requires painstaking work, complex and delicate, but he believes that these efforts are worth it. The lady says that if he sells her this place, she will keep it in the form in which he loved it, and of course, she hopes that the Marquise will spend the rest of his life in this place, close to heaven, and his wife. The gentleman asks who is going to sell. She says that he reads the newspaper gossip and probably heard about how her husband beheaded the Archduke of Karka at the Battle of Kharkiv. The Marquis says that the Archduke Karka is a shameless traitor, and in his helmet was found a sapphire the size of his head. Lyad says that this sapphire is right behind the door, and then asks if he wants to take a look, and then says that of course she does not intend to sell it either. The gentleman says that even though he lives in a place that looks like historical ruins, it turns out it's not that bad, and the longer he stays there, the more things he finds that he likes. When the lady was coming down from the top floor, she was met by the head of the bank. He screamed and told the miss that he had politely escorted her, but she still on her own initiative went to the Marquis. The lady asks if she is forbidden to visit him. The bank president says that he meant that the Marquis Rohan does not like guests, and he could hardly persuade him to sign a contract to rent the place. The president says that if he cannot renew this contract because of the fact that he cannot even properly monitor the visitors, and asks if she will be held responsible for this. The man asks if she is capable of being responsible for anything at all, and then he says that he didn't mean to say it, but she can't even imagine how determined Viscountess Cartier was to not place false hopes on Miss Townsend. Tatiana says that he removed his hand and then says that she told him not to touch her building. The lady says that if he does not behave respectfully with her, neither will she. The head of the bank screams and asks what the lady is saying, and then says that the tower is the property of Royal Standard Bank. The lady objects and says that she was the property of the Marquis of Rohan. He says that he knows because they signed a contract for 3 years, and Tatiana says that now it belongs to her, and this is the contract for the transfer of ownership of the tower. The lady says that she thinks he has no doubts about the authenticity of the Marquis's seal, and reports that there is not much time left before his contract expires. The president, surprised, says that this is all nonsense, and asks if she knows what kind of building this is, since he thinks that buying it from the Marquis of Rohan would not be so easy. The lady says he can go up and check himself. The man says if he could visit him just once, he would have known about his intentions earlier. At this time, Canel thought about his life, in which there was naturally neglect and ridicule, and he wondered if the same fate awaited her just because she married him. At this time, the wife asks if she is very late. He answers that no, and asks if she has finished her business. The lady says that it's nothing, she just bought something. And the butler says that the building is not her dress. The head of the bank asks Miss Townsend to talk to him. Canel asks who he is. Tatiana reminds him that she already said that when she returns, at least one person will bow their head to him. The girl explains that sooner or later, the name Townsend will appear in the newspapers, and not in the bank's customer ads column. She asks if he will ask what she bought. Canel asks if she likes the purchase. She replies that she likes it very much because it is a bit big, but she has wanted it for a long time. Her husband asks if it is enough. The main character says that it may sound funny, but sometimes this place seems like a battlefield to her. And then she looks at her husband and asks if he thought that the war he went through was the only real battlefield. The girl claims that this is no less a harsh battle, and there is no time to relax, and then asks if he feels the same on the battlefield. The lady says that the more she does, the stronger she fights, and there is no beautiful defeat, and even if what he suffered was unfair, he must continue to do it until the victorious end. Canel asks what if she loses, and the lady asks in surprise why she should lose, since she is Tatiana Townsend. The main character asks if every cruel war ever ends, because she believes that he returned and even got married, and that those who survived had the whole world in their hands. The girl explains that although she said that she would use the purchase at her own discretion, since it is his property, he should know its contents. Tatiana says that this is different from her plan, but she thinks that it is even better this way, and if they make a contribution, they will be the first to receive an invitation from the bank association. And the Marquis of Rohan will continue to live in the tower and will perhaps visit them in Townsend sooner. The young lady thinks that he is a picky person, and therefore they need to prepare now. And after the process of transferring all rights is completed, it will be necessary to hold an auction to find a new tenant, and this alone will alarm all of Lebron. Tatiana says that in order to announce that the Townsend family are the new owners of the tower, it would be nice to throw a banquet ourselves. She asks her husband if he is listening to her, and then explains that she says that she wants to throw a banquet in honor of the announcement that the Townsend family are the new owners of the tower. The main character says that she knows that preparing for the banquet and renovating the mansion are difficult undertakings, but she thinks that they need to try because they have proven that they have power. N asks if they will have time to finish before the beginning of the bank association banquet. The lady says that there is nothing to be done since it is already the last day of the month. Hearing this, Canel grabbed the girl by the hand and asks if today is the last day of the month, and then says that then they still have a chance and suggests going. Soon the newspapers wrote that the owners of the tower had changed. A new owner of the tower was determined, the right to ownership of which had not changed since its foundation. Based on the available data, the person who changed the rules of the game of the entire financial market is Miss Tatiana Townsend, who paid the entire amount at once. The amount and terms of the contract are unknown. However, according to the words of the servant of the Marquis Rohan, who wished to remain a secret, after reading this news, Larissa says that this military fanatic has a sapphire that is bigger than hers. The daughter suggests that her mother calm down because she thinks that it is better than suffering from lack of money. The Viscountess asks if she thinks she will believe it, and then says that this was the limit. The maid informs Madame that the bank president has come to see her. The Marquis says that when Miss Tatiana announced the opening of the bidding for a new tenant of the building, all those who wished immediately declared their readiness to participate. The Viscountess says to talk about it later because she has a visitor. However, the man claims that they have no time because the elections of the president of the National Bank are coming up, and this will cause a lot of trouble if they do not hurry. Larissa tells him to shut his mouth, and if he doesn't shut up right now, then he definitely won't sit in his place, and then asks how much money she paid him so that she wouldn't stay in that house for long, and they would kick her out. The blue-haired maid says that she didn't know that it would turn out like this with Tatiana, because she thought that everything was fine since she didn't express any interest. The Viscountess says she was looking for her flaw and then asks if she has anything to say. The Madame asks if her daughter slept with that man, and the maid says she is sorry. Larissa screams and asks why, and then reminds him that she said that there is nothing between them and they sleep in separate rooms. The maid explains that it was so, and that's how they lived. The woman asks if a gust of wind blew and then asks if she did what she told her to do. The maid explains that she was immediately thrown out. In the morning, when the main character woke up, she thought that last night it was amazing, and as if it was not the first night, and she does not understand whether they are so suitable for each other. When the husband got out of bed, the girl saw his scars, and at that time he thought about why he wanted to leave before dawn. Kanel tells her that she doesn't have to tell him because he knows they're terrible. She asks what terrible means. The gentleman explains that they don't look beautiful, but if he wants to go to war, he must be prepared for it. She asks what he's talking about, and he asks if she wasn't asking about the scars. The guy says that everything is fine because he does not need any consolation or sympathy. Tatiana asks to look at her and then apologizes. She says that until now, she has not had a chance, but now it will not be so easy to leave. The girl says that she doesn't know what he thinks of her, but she can't verify that he thinks she would think he's terrible because of the wound he received while defending his country. Kanel is surprised and says that it is simply unimaginable to hear this lady telling him to apologize. The guy explains what he meant, but the girl interrupts him and says that if he does not want to apologize, then let him leave because she needs to rest. When the man left the room standing by the door, he thought that if he came back she would get angry, and if he didn't try, she wouldn't come into that room for at least another month. The lady says that she does not need their loyalty, but only that they will simply work off the money she pays them. The lady says that it seems simple, but in fact, it is the most difficult. Tatiana asks the maid if she knows what their coachman used to do. N says that he seems to have collected portraits, including of their master, and the lady says that at least it is good since her mother did not send him. The maid tells the mistress that they did not buy new tea and had to take the old one. She says that this is not the issue, but simply that the taste is different, and it seems to her that it was more bitter before. The maid says that she did as usual, and then says that the butler has too much stock and it will last for several more months. The mistress says that then there is no need to buy more, because first they will drink what they have. N says that an invitation came from the banking association, and the lady says that this is good enough and suggests throwing all the other letters into the firebox. The maid says that there are many letters inviting Madame to visit them. She explains that they want an invitation to the tower, and not her, as she thinks it is obvious that they will compare her to her mother. The main character says that she needs to pick out a dress because she understands that time is running out. She says that Lebrun is big, and she wonders if all her dresses will fit in there. The maid explains that there is nothing there, and says that even though she is the owner of the tower, if she dresses like that, there will be talk again. The butler asks the madam what to do with it. She looked at the many boxes of gold and thought that from that day on, he no longer showed up, but only sent new chests of treasure every day. She tells the guy that he collected everything and threw it away or burned it, and then offers to tell her husband that his wife is not a lost and found office, and if he wants to say something and he still has a tongue, then let him come and do it himself. Her